Chapter 356. Have you investigated Bailey Hongshuang's background? Ren Tianxiong slowly asked, his gaze still focused on the group of students who were writing down the items. I haven't investigated, but I have a certain understanding from Lu Huayan and Lu Huayan. Huan Chuyu smiled. After this background, Bailey Hongshuang should still have many secrets. Ren Tianxiong's eyes flashed with approval. Not only Bailey Hongshuang, but Di Beichun is also not simple. This time, the new students who came to the school are quite extraordinary. Huan Chio's voice was somewhat emotional. Demonic Beast-Tide, second-grade alchemist, junior sect master, they're truly extraordinary. Hearing this, Ren Tianxiong's lips curled into a smile. As long as we know that they are students of the Azure Water School, that is enough. As the principal of the Azure Water School, their goal was to cultivate more talents. As for their lives and ambitions, it was not something they wanted to participate in. Xia Jiqing distributed the paper and pens, and the students participating in the auction were also very cooperative. However, when Xia Jiqing looked at the person who came to take the paper and pen, her gaze changed a bit. Ling Jiasin, didn't you say that the channel-opening pill in Hongshuang's hand was fake? Then why did you come here to bid? Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with disgust and disdain. She didn't have the slightest good impression of this woman who kept finding trouble with Hongshuang. She actually came to the auction today. Could it be that she wanted to cause trouble? Ling Jiasin's expression was a bit awkward. She thought that with so many people coming today, if she changed her appearance a bit, no one would notice her. Moreover, she was using the method of writing a note. She only needed to change her name, and Bailey Hongshuang wouldn't know. She didn't think that when she was distributing the paper and pens, she would be recognized by Xia Jiqing. After being discovered, Ling Jiasin awkwardly raised her head and puffed out her chest. This auction doesn't have any rules about who can't bid. Can't I participate in the auction? Xia Jiqing sneered. Ah, your face is really thick. Ling Jiasin's face stiffened. This Xia Jiqing's words were really not polite at all. Compared to Bailey Hongshuang, she was even more vicious. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Give me the pen and paper. As she said this, Ling Jiasin didn't want to talk to Xia Jiqing anymore and directly took the pen and paper from her hands. Xia Jiqing looked at Ling Jiasin coldly. This kind of person was really rare. After distributing the pen and paper, Xia Jiqing returned to the high platform. Hongshuang, I saw Ling Jiasin when I was distributing the pens and paper. She also came to participate in the auction. You must not choose her. Xia Jiqing curled her lips, and her eyes were full of disgust. That woman, she must be up to no good. Such a treasure can't be given to her. Looking at Xia Jiqing's dissatisfied look, Bailey Hongshuang's mouth evoked an elegant smile. It doesn't matter, I just saw her. But I think that since she was collecting money to pay off her gambling debts, I don't think she has many things to bid for now. After Xia Jiqing reminded Bailey Hongshuang, her mood became better. Although it was being auctioned in the school, she believed that these 3-channel opening pills would definitely be sold for a high price. Chapter 357. Holding the pen and paper in her hand, Ling Jiasin felt a little proud. Ever since she met Bailey Hongshuang, she had never been so humiliated in her life. This resentment, no matter what, she couldn't swallow it. Coincidentally, Yunyang had returned yesterday, and after discussing, they made a decision. A few days ago, Dai Yunyang had already received a letter from General Dai. After knowing that his sister had died at the hands of Bailey Hongshuang, Dai Yunyang was unable to restrain his anger. Daring to kill his sister, he would definitely avenge her with his own hands. After Dai Yunyang returned, not only had his strength increased, even his wealth had increased by quite a bit. Coincidentally, Bailey Hongshuang was holding an auction, so they came up with a plan. As long as they obtained all 3-channel opening pills, they would spread the word that the channel opening pills were useless. In this way, Bailey Hongshuang would naturally lose all face. The students who originally believed in Bailey Hongshuang would definitely abandon her like a pair of worn-out shoes. Bailey Hongshuang's reputation would be destroyed and trampled on by everyone. At that time, Wouldn't it be easy for them to trample on Bailey Hongzhuang? Dai Yunyang decided to hide the news of his return, so he gave this task to Ling Jiasin, Lu Jingquan, and Pang Yunxiang. They originally planned to find a few disciples to help them obtain the channel-opening pills, but they didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to come up with this idea, saving them a lot of trouble. In this way, they only needed to randomly fill in someone else's name. After Bailey Hongzhuang read out the names, they would then stand up, and Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't be able to object. Ling Jiasin glanced at Lu Jingquan, who wasn't far away, and Lu Jingquan revealed a knowing smile. Towards Bailey Hongzhuang, they had long wanted her dead. Now that they had finally thought of a perfect plan, they must put Bailey Hongzhuang to death. Pang Yunxiang was also very happy. Although he didn't achieve his goal of helping Dai Yunyang deal with Bailey Hongzhuang, and was instead taught a lesson by Bailey Hongzhuang. But he was now valued by Dai Yunyang. As long as this matter was done well, he would be able to work for Dai Yunyang in the future. His dark eyes were filled with viciousness. The enmity between him and Bailey Hongzhuang had already been formed. The last time he was injured in the cultivation pagoda, he had to recuperate for a long time before he could recover. He was also very apologetic towards Chun Tianzheng. This time, he wanted to get back at Bailey Hongzhuang with interest. Bailey Hongzhuang stroked Baisher's fur. This little guy was unusually excited today. Baisher's eyes lit up at the thought of the many shiny demon crystals he would get after the auction. Heavens! Give it more demon crystals and smash it to death. The black and white fur balls were a little depressed. Their master had spent a lot of effort on White Lion's food, and in comparison, their treatment was much worse. So unfair. Xiaohei sat on Bailey Hongzhuang's head, her face full of resentment and dissatisfaction. She couldn't help but stretch out her hand to pluck Bailey Hongzhuang's hair. Xiaobai nodded her head in agreement. This little baby is getting more and more arrogant. He only knows how to act cute all day. Sigh. Xiaohei sighed and plucked out a strand of hair. Don't tell me that the two of us are going to let this little baby be arrogant on our heads. Xiaobai used her strength and plucked out a strand of hair. The problem is that I haven't thought of a way. Chapter 358. You two little guys, what are you doing on my head? A touch of helplessness appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. What were these two guys doing? Xiaohei and Xiaobai were stunned when they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words. They then noticed the strands of hair in their hands, and their expressions changed. Nothing. Xiaohei quickly denied and hid the strands of hair that she had just pulled out. However, how could the hair stick together? It quickly fell to the ground. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the strands of hair on the ground and narrowed her eyes. Are you two pulling out my hair? Xiaohei and Xiaobai waved their hands. No, definitely not. Then what's this on the ground? Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. Her gaze was sharp and wise, and the two fur balls could not deny it. Air. Xiaohei poked with her fingers. She lowered her head and looked guilty. Xiaobai and I were too busy talking that we forgot. Just now, she thought that she was pulling out weeds. She had pulled them out so smoothly. Xiaohei nodded and raised a hand. I swear, we didn't do it on purpose. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head helplessly. She did not need to think to know what these two were thinking. Stop mumbling, you two. How about I treat you to a big meal tonight? As soon as he said this, Little Black and Little White's eyes were filled with sparkling light. They were like little shining stars, filled with a covetous light. Really? Xiaobai quickly asked. We can eat anything we want? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right. You can eat anything you want. Speaking of which, the two fur balls loved to eat the most. She usually only cared about cultivating, so she ate very simply. It was really hard on these two little fellows. I want to eat red braised pork, Xiaohei quickly said. I want to eat pork trotters. Xiaobai quickly followed. She was afraid that the pork trotters would be gone if she said it too late. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Okay, one for each. Wow, so happy. Xiaohei and Xiaobai raised their hands together with a happy expression. They were completely immersed in the vision of red braised pork and pork trotters. After dealing with these two little fellows, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze once again fell on the crowd. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. She saw a very unexpected person in the crowd, Wei Meidai. That day at the Alchemist Guild, she and Wei Meidai had completely fallen out completely. Today, Wei Meidai actually came to participate in the auction. The most important thing was that students who weren't from the Azure Water School couldn't enter. Could it be that Wei Meidai was also a student of the Azure Water School? Wei Meidai's mood was very gloomy. Although she was a student of the Azure Water School, she spent most of her time refining pills and rarely came to the school. She had heard that Bailey Hongzhuang was going to auction 3 channel opening pills at the Azure Water School. Although she was very interested, she didn't want to come. Last time, she lost all face in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. She was usually very resourceful, but in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, she couldn't do anything. Even her master was angered by Bailey Hongzhuang. She didn't want to see Bailey Hongzhuang ever again. Chapter 359. Wei Meidai didn't want to come to Azure Water School at all. Moreover, she came to bid for Bailey Hongzhuang's channel opening pill. Wasn't that the same as asking for humiliation? She was wealthy, but Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't sell the channel opening pill to her. If it was her, she also wouldn't sell the channel opening pill to Bailey Hongzhuang. However, she couldn't go against her master's orders, so she could only brace herself and come. She also understood her master's intentions. The reason why Bailey Hongzhuang could be so arrogant in the Alchemist Guild was because of the lost channel opening pills recipe. If her master could use the channel opening pill to research the recipe, then Bailey Hongzhuang's arrogance would be gone. At that time, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have the capital to be arrogant in front of them. Thinking of this, the gloominess on Wei Meidai's face dissipated. For a gentleman to take revenge, 10 years is not too late. Even if she couldn't think of a way to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang now, there would be plenty of ways in the future. Soon, she would definitely make Bailey Hongzhuang kowtow to her and beg for forgiveness. Wife, what are you looking at? Di Beichun saw Bailey Hongzhuang looking at the crowd with interest and couldn't help but ask her. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly, her eyes revealing a playful smile. It's nothing. It's just that this auction attracted quite a few enemies. It's really lively. Wife still has enemies in Azure Water School. Di Beichun raised his eyebrows, but there was a trace of coldness in his eyes. Those who dare to be his wife's enemies, he wouldn't let them have an easy time. Bailey Hongzhuang lightly smiled and shook her head. It's nothing, it's just some small squabbles. It's not a big deal. As a cultivator, there was no lack of trouble. Because everyone was a cultivator, after reaching a certain level of strength, it was inevitable that they would become arrogant. Therefore, it was normal for small conflicts to be magnified. The more powerful and talented a cultivator was, the more trouble they would have to face. This was a universally acknowledged law, and she, Bailey Hongzhuang, was never afraid of any trouble. Since they dared to cause trouble for her, they should be prepared to pay the price. Di Beichun was relieved to see Bailey Hongzhuang so confident. It was normal for cultivators to have conflicts. As long as it wasn't too complicated, his wife could solve it easily. Hongzhuang, Ling Jiasin, Lu Jingkuan, and the others are all here. I'm afraid that they will find ways to cause trouble. You have to be mentally prepared. Dongfang Yu reminded with a trace of worry between his brows. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, a confident smile blooming on her face. Don't worry, I have a way to deal with it. As the saying goes, when a virtue is 1 foot tall, the devil is 10 feet tall. She could almost infer the method that Ling Jiasin and the others had thought of. Since they wanted to do this, she would follow their wishes and teach them a lesson. She would let them know the taste of trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. Not long after, the students finished writing their notes and placed them in the collection box at the front. Bailey Hongzhuang took the collection box and began to look at the contents of the notes. The things written on the notes were not the same, but most of them were points, monster crystals, and the like. For Bailey Hongzhuang, what she cared about the most was points. After going to the cultivation pagoda, she understood how beneficial the abundant energy in the cultivation pagoda was to her cultivation. Therefore, she was very eager to accumulate points. Chapter 360. Looking at the slips of paper in her hand, Bailey Hongzhuang selected the three with the highest prices. 3,000 points, 50 monster crystals. 2,000 points, 30 monster crystals. 2,000 points, 30 monster crystals. The items on these three slips of paper were most in line with Bailey Hongzhuang's intentions. Especially after obtaining these points, she would be able to go into seclusion in the cultivation pagoda for a period of time. She believed that at that time, her cultivation would definitely be able to make a breakthrough. Xia Jiqing looked at the prices on these three slips of paper and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The value was really too high. In the Azure Water School, the most important thing for students was points. Even money couldn't be exchanged for points. The other slips of paper were mostly a few hundred points, with the highest being a little over 1,000 points. This was already the price of students' hard-earned capital. She didn't expect that someone would actually write such a sky-high price. Looking at it, she was also endlessly envious. I've already chosen. Bailey Hongzhuang waved the three cards in her hand towards the audience, her delicate and beautiful face rippling with an elegant and charming smile. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the audience's hearts tightened. They didn't know who Bailey Hongzhuang had chosen. Lin Qinru, Huang Fuyun, Xia Chuyan. After hearing the first name, Ling Jiaxin couldn't help but frown. She was confident that their bids were already very high. It shouldn't be possible for anyone to bid a higher price than them. How could someone suddenly appear out of nowhere? Fortunately, after hearing the next two names, she also let out a sigh of relief. At least 2 channel opening pills had fallen into their hands. As for the third channel opening pill, they could think of another way. A proud smile appeared on Wei Meidai's face. She originally thought that the task her master gave her would be difficult to complete, but she didn't expect it to be so easy. As an alchemist, she had the most wealth. Whether it was points or monster crystals, she didn't lack them at all. To her, the most important thing wasn't cultivation, but alchemy. Thus, it didn't matter if she handed over all her points. Moreover, as an alchemist, how could she lack these things? Other than Wei Meidai and the other two, the other students who failed in the bidding were all disappointed. The price I offered was already very high. How could I fail? Just how high did these 3 people offer? Yeah, I also thought that I should be able to get it, but I don't know why I failed. AI. That's the channel opening pill we're talking about. I prepared for it for so long, but in the end, I still missed it. Seeing that everyone was very curious about the prices, Bailey Hongzhuang directly read out the prices on the 3 pieces of paper. After hearing this price, there was a burst of exclamations. Oh my God, 3,000 points. That's too much. Is there a student in our academy who has so many points? 2,000 points. Even if I add up all the points I have in the academy, I don't have that many points. Truly, there is always someone better than you out there. No wonder we lost. We really didn't lose by much. It's just that I've never heard of these 3 names before. I wonder who they are. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze faintly fell on Ling Jiaxin and the other 2. These 3 people were full of confidence, so the price they offered must be extremely high. She believed that the 3 pieces of paper in her hand belonged to these 3 people. Chapter 361. Wei Meidai, Ling Jiaxin, and Lu Jingquan walked up the stage under the astonished and shocked gazes of the crowd. After seeing the faces of the 3 people, there was an uproar. Isn't that Ling Jiaxin? Her name wasn't in the list of names Bailey Hongzhuang just called out. Wei Meidai and Lu Jingquan also didn't use their real names. What the hell is going on? Could it be that the 3 of them made an agreement? I don't know. I heard that Ling Jiaxin and Lu Jingquan have conflicts with Bailey Hongzhuang. It's not strange for them to use fake names. Why is Wei Meidai also like this? Ling Jiaxin proudly stood on the stage, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with ridicule. You didn't think that I would be the one to bid for the channel opening pill, right? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the 3 people in front of her indifferently. Her expression didn't change because of Ling Jiaxin's words. Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to speak, Xia Jiqing took the lead. Ling Jiaxin, I didn't think that you would be so despicable as to use a fake name. She had already expected that Ling Jiaxin wouldn't come to the auction with good intentions. Now she didn't know what kind of trouble she was looking for. Ling Jiaxin coldly glanced at Xia Jiqing. This auction is for the highest bidder. It has nothing to do with names. Can I use this name today? Did I say something wrong? Bailey Hongzhuang? Ling Jiasin turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang, full of confidence. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. You're right. The highest bidder wins. What name you want to use has nothing to do with me. Even if you change your name to Pighead today, I won't care. As soon as these words came out, the smile on Ling Jiasin's face froze and instantly became ugly. This Bailey Hongzhuang really had the ability to anger people to death. Uffed. Xia Jiqing, who was originally very angry, couldn't help but laugh after hearing these words. Pighead? This name really matched Ling Jiasin very well. Wei Meidai originally thought that she would have a conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang. She didn't think that before she even spoke, Ling Jiasin would take the lead. Her black eyes were filled with disgust and disdain. As expected, there were still many people who hated Bailey Hongzhuang. Since we've already bid, then give us the channel opening, pill opening. Lu Jingquan's eyes were cold and gloomy. Since he met Bailey Hongzhuang, he had suffered a lot. Now it was time for him to get back at her. You aren't goings, are you? Lu Jingquan smiled proudly. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's face didn't change, he believed that Bailey Hongzhuang must be very angry. She definitely wouldn't have thought that they would be the ones to bid for the channel opening pill. However, they didn't know if Lu Jingquan knew that Bailey Hongzhuang knew that these 3 notes were written by them and deliberately chose them. They didn't know what he would think. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was indifferent and elegant. Her natural and unrestrained appearance made it seem as if she didn't have any unhappiness with Ling Jiasin and the others. On the contrary, it made everyone feel that Ling Jiasin and Lu Jingquan were narrow-minded. Of course not. This is a fair and just auction. The 3 of you have handed over the things written on the slips of paper. The channel opening pill is yours. Ling Jiasin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who had changed her usual style. Her face was filled with confusion. What was wrong with the Bailey Hongzhuang today? Why was it completely different from what she had imagined? If the Bailey Hongzhuang at this moment jumped up and argued with her, she would feel a bit more pleasure. Chapter 362. Is Hongzhuang really going to sell the channel opening pills to Ling Jiasin and the others? Lu Qingyue's brows were filled with doubt and embarrassment. Now that the situation had developed to this point, it would be impossible to change anything. However, Ling Jiasin and the others clearly didn't have good intentions. If she just let them buy the channel opening pills, would there be any problems? Gong Xiaoqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent appearance and thought for a moment before saying, Hongzhuang should have already thought of a countermeasure. Don't worry. Dong Fanyu was a bit worried and couldn't help but look at Di Beichun. As Bailey Hongzhuang's husband, Di Beichun should be even more worried. However, in his line of sight, he only saw Di Beichun leisurely standing to the side, as if he didn't care about this matter at all. Di Beichun's lips curved into a charming smile. These little tricks were nothing in Hongzhuang's eyes. From his understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang, she was someone who always wanted the world to be in chaos. She wouldn't do something she didn't want to do just because there were so many people present. Since Bailey Hongzhuang did this, then she must have thought of a better way. Ling Jiasin and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang suspiciously. Her behavior today was really too abnormal. However, after thinking about it, the 3 of them could only attribute the reason to the fact that today's situation was different. Wei Meidai looked at Bailey Hongzhuang coldly. She didn't plan on saying anything to Bailey Hongzhuang. Once her master researched the channel opening pills recipe, she would teach Bailey Hongzhuang a good lesson. After Ling Jiasin and the others gave their points and monster crystals to Bailey Hongzhuang gave the pills to the 3 of them. After this moment, the auction officially came to an end. Walking down the high platform, Ling Jiasin's face was full of pride. Bailey Hongzhuang is usually so arrogant, but I didn't expect her to be so cowardly today. I don't feel any joy from winning. Haha, Yunyang is back. Bailey Hongzhuang's arrogance is gone forever. Lu Jingquan laughed. After Wei Meidai received the channel opening pill, she didn't stay in the Azure Water School any longer. She wanted to give this channel opening pill to her master for research. After Ling Jiesin and the others left, Xia Jiqing said, "Hongzhuang, are you okay?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "I'm fine, of course I'm fine." Then, Xia Jiqing opened her mouth awkwardly. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Jiqing, I need to trouble you with something." "What is it?" Hearing this, Xia Jiqing immediately became spirited. She was worried that Hongzhuang would be unhappy about what happened just now. Bailey Hongzhuang once again took out 3 pieces of paper from her sleeve. "I'll have to trouble you to help me find these 3 people. If they are willing, I'll sell these 3 channel opening pills to them at the price on the paper." Xia Jiqing looked at the 3 pieces of paper in confusion. She didn't understand what Hongzhuang meant by this. However, she didn't ask. As long as she helped Hongzhuang complete this matter, it was fine. "No problem, leave it to me." Xia Jiqing confidently patted her chest. "I'm very good at this kind of thing." Seeing that Xia Jiqing was about to leave, Bai Junyu couldn't help but say, "Jiqing, I'll also go with you." Xia Jiqing glanced at Bai Junyu. "Your injuries haven't healed yet. You should go back and recuperate." Chapter 363. Special Enrollment Dormitory. Dongfang Yu and the other 2 passed by Bailey Hongzhuang's room. Their hearts were full of doubts, but when they saw that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to have something to say, they left. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked into the room. Just as she was about to close the door, she saw Di Beichen leaning against the door. His posture was lazy and charming. "You're blocking me from closing the door." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and said lazily. Di Beichen blinked innocently. His expression was lonely and sad. "Wifey, I've already made it so obvious. Don't tell me you don't plan on inviting me in?" Looking at Di Beichen's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang was somewhat helpless. This guy really knows how to act like a rascal, act sad, and act cute. "If you want to come in, then come in." As soon as her voice fell, the loneliness and sadness on Di Beichen's face disappeared in an instant. It was replaced by an evil joy. "Wifey, although you look stubborn on the surface, your heart really does love your husband. Love your head." Bailey Hongzhuang coldly replied. This guy really knows how to open a dye house when given a little color. Di Beichen suddenly grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. With a twist, he pulled her into his embrace. "Cabinet." Bailey Hongzhuang leaned against the wall. Di Beichen's hand were placed on both sides of her body. His handsome face was magnified in front of her eyes. "Wifey, if you say this, your husband will be sad." His dark and deep eyes were filled with a charming light, faintly revealing a trace of sadness. His words also revealed a trace of loneliness. Although she knew that this guy's sadness and loneliness were fake, she had to admit that this guy's acting was really on point. Bailey Hongzhuang heard Di Beichen's words, and her heart couldn't bear it. Looking at the extraordinarily handsome face in front of her, even though she had seen it many times, she still had to admit that it was really damn good looking. There were no blind spots at all. No matter which angle one looked at it from, it was impeccable. Even at such a close distance, his skin was still flawless. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang looking at him blankly, Di Beichen's mouth curved into a wicked and charming smile. "Wife, do I look good?" Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. What a disgrace. She had been so focused on looking at his face that she had forgotten what was going on. She glared angrily at the guy in front of her. He was definitely a monster. "It's just SOSO, barely passable," Bailey Hongzhuang said insincerely. Di Beichen frowned in dissatisfaction. "Just SOSO?" His handsome face came closer again. In the blink of an eye, the distance between Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang was only 1 centimeter. It was as if the slightest movement would cause their faces to touch. "In your husband's heart, my wife is the most beautiful woman in the world." His thin lips slightly opened and his sincere words came out. Di Beichen's breath sprayed onto Bailey Hongzhuang's face. It was very ambiguous. Bailey Hongzhuang's body stiffened, a trace of crimson appearing on her pretty face. This damn guy clearly knew her weakness. She pushed Di Beichen away and freed herself in the ambiguous atmosphere. Bailey Hongzhuang took a breath of fresh air and returned to her normal expression. Di Beichen turned around and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, sulking on the bed with a smile. His heart softened. His wife was really cute. Chapter 364. You're always full of nonsense. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Di Beichen a disdainful look. This guy's ability to lie through his teeth was top-notch. The smile on Di Beichen's face didn't change. His wife was too shy to say such words. Speaking of which, Bailey Hongzhuang usually had an indifferent and calm appearance, but this kind of shy and angry girl's appearance was the most charming. Even if I'm really full of nonsense, that's only for my wife. If it were any other woman, I wouldn't even bother to say a word. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows twitched. You're just talking nonsense. Your husband is speaking the truth. Di Beichen emphasized. Bailey Hongzhuang was just about to mock Di Beichen. She didn't believe that Di Beichen wouldn't even bother to say a word to any other woman. However, when she raised her head, Bailey Hongzhuang saw the seriousness in Di Beichen's eyes. That pair of deep and charming eyes were filled with seriousness, sincerity, and true feelings. The seriousness in Di Beichen's eyes disappeared in a flash. In the blink of an eye, he returned to his previous teasing appearance. Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. That trace of emotion dissipated too quickly, so she didn't see it clearly. Wife, selling the channel opening pills to Ling Jiasin and the other two doesn't seem to fit your style. Di Beichen's cherry blossom-like thin lips rose in a wicked smile. His eyes were filled with ridicule and certainty. His wife was someone who would definitely take revenge for any enmity. Her delicate and enchanting face was filled with a sly smile. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. How is it not my style? In my opinion, the channel opening pills you gave them were fake, right? Di Beichen's smile widened. His handsome and perfect face was filled with confidence. He hadn't spent so much time with Bailey Hongzhuang for nothing. There must be something fishy going on. Bailey Hongzhuang had always been a person who could not tolerate sand in her eyes. More importantly, there was a lawlessness in her bones. Don't say that there were too many people at the auction today. Bailey Hongzhuang had no choice but to sell the channel opening pills to Ling Jiasin and the others under pressure. If Bailey Hongzhuang was not willing, then what was the point of not holding this auction? There was a touch of surprise in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. No one in the room had seen her plan. How could Di Beichen see it? How did you know? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Di Beichen smiled proudly. Of course, it's based on my understanding of my wife. Bailey Hongzhuang curled her lips. It didn't matter if Di Beichen saw through it, as long as Ling Jiasin and the other two idiots didn't see through it. If she didn't guess wrong, Ling Jiasin would definitely say that the pill had no effect and that it was a fake channel opening pill. With their intellect, this was the only way to ruin her reputation. Since Ling Jiasin wanted to say that the channel opening pill was fake, then she might as well give them the fake channel opening pill. As for who everyone would believe in the end, she had her own way of doing so. As for Wei Meidai's participation in the auction, it was definitely Gu Songyun's idea. Researching the refining method of the channel opening pill, if the pill recipe was so easy to research, then it wouldn't be a secret in the alchemy world. Di Beichen's gaze fell on Baisher's body. He found that the king character on its forehead had disappeared. It looked no different from an ordinary pet contract beast. Chapter 365. Ling Jiasin and Lu Jingquan held onto the channel opening pills with excitement on their faces. This was a channel opening pill that was extremely helpful to cultivators. Pang Yunxiang followed behind the two, with a trace of helplessness and depression in his eyes. The three of them had clearly offered the same price, yet Bailey Hongzhuang had chosen Ling Jiasin and Lu Jingquan. This was the first time Dai Yunyang had given him something to do, yet he had failed. If this caused Dai Yunyang to be dissatisfied with his ability, then it would be a huge loss. Miss Ling, the third channel opening pill has fallen into Wei Meidai's hands. What should we do? Lu Jingquan frowned. According to their original plan, these three channel opening pills would definitely fall into their hands. However, no one would have thought that a variable like Wei Meidai would appear. Thus, Wouldn't it be impossible for them to falsely accuse Bailey Hongzhuang of having no use for the pills? Everyone knew that the two of them had a deep grudge with Bailey Hongzhuang. If the two of them said the pills were useless, while Wei Meidai said they were effective, then no one would believe them. Ling Jiesen's face was also filled with worry. They had finally found a way to make Bailey Hongzhuang helpless. How could they fail just like that? How about we go find Wei Meidai and sound her out? Ling Jiesen suggested. As long as we give her some benefits, maybe she will agree. Lu Jingquan nodded. That's right. Let's first sound out Wei Meidai's intentions. Wei Meidai took the channel opening pills and rushed back. There were many people in Azure Water City who coveted the channel opening pills, so she had to quickly give them to her master. However, as Wei Meidai was walking, she was suddenly stopped by someone. Wei Meidai couldn't help but be startled. Just as she was about to use her identity as an alchemist to intimidate them, she discovered that it was Ling Jiesen and the other two. Her eyes couldn't help but be filled with doubt. What are you doing here? Ling Jiesen smiled brightly and approached Wei Meidai. Miss Wei, we came here to ask for your help. Wei Meidai frowned. What is it? Is it possible for Miss Wei to sell the channel opening pills to us? Hearing this, Wei Meidai glanced at Ling Jiesen and shook her head firmly. No, I have a use for this pill. If it's because of this, you don't have to say anything more. I won't sell it. There was disappointment in Ling Jiesen's eyes, but Wei Meidai's answer was within her expectations. With Wei Meidai's identity as an alchemist, she didn't lack money at all. Why would she sell it to them? Wei Meidai was about to leave when she saw Lu Jingquan and Peng Yunxiang still blocking her way. She couldn't help but frown. I've already said what I should say. What else do you want? Ling Jiesen pondered for a moment. Since there was no hope of buying the channel opening pill, she could only try her best. If he failed, he could just deny it in the future. Thinking of this, Ling Jiesen lowered her voice. I wonder what Miss Wei thinks of Bailey Hongzhuang. Wei Meidai looked at Ling Jiesen in confusion. She didn't understand what Ling Jiesen meant. Could it be? The news of her conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang at the Alchemist Guild had already spread? Although there were quite a few people present that day, there weren't any Azure Water School students. It shouldn't have spread. Just say what you want to say. Wei Meidai said coldly. She wanted to see what Ling Jiesen and the others were planning. Chapter 366. We have some enmity with Bailey Hongzhuang, so we hope that Miss Wei can help us tell a lie. Ling Jiesen slowly told Wei Meidai her thoughts. As she spoke, she observed Wei Meidai's expression. Although she knew that the chances of success were small, she still wanted to try her best. If she succeeded, then she would be able to vent all the anger she had suffered during this period of time. After Wei Meidai heard Ling Jiesen's words, she was surprised but also a little proud. She already knew that Ling Jiesen and Bailey Hongzhuang had some conflict during the auction of the channel opening pills, but she didn't think that Ling Jiesen would come up with such a method to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. However, she liked this method. Miss Wei, I know that this is a bit difficult, but I really hope that you can help us. If you need any compensation, you can tell us. As long as we can do it, we will definitely do it. If it wasn't for that Bailey Hongzhuang going too far, we wouldn't do this. Ling Jiesen pretended to be pitiful. She believed that most women wouldn't have any good feelings towards someone as beautiful as Bailey Hongzhuang. Wei Meidai's lips curled into a proud smile, her eyes filled with resentment. That damned Bailey Hongzhuang. She hadn't even done anything yet, and someone was already impatiently trying to deal with her. She wanted to see if Bailey Hongzhuang would still have any face left after this matter was spread out. She probably wouldn't be able to keep her title as a genius alchemist. I promise you. Wei Meidai chuckled. Hearing Wei Meidai's words, Ling Jiesen couldn't help but be startled. I don't need any compensation. I already don't like Bailey Hongzhuang. It's just a small matter. I'll help you. Wei Meidai said viciously. As long as you can make Bailey Hongzhuang suffer. Ling Jiesen and Lu Jingquan's eyes lit up with excitement. They originally thought that it would be very difficult to convince Wei Meidai. Even if they really succeeded, they would have to pay a huge price. They didn't think that Wei Meidai would agree so easily without any compensation. From Wei Meidai's words, Ling Jiasin understood that Wei Meidai and Bailey Hongzhuang already had a grudge. In other words, they were basically on the same side. So Miss Wei already doesn't like Bailey Hongzhuang. Ling Jiasin chuckled. Ling Jiasin life. That woman was born an annoying existence. Don't worry. This time we'll definitely make sure that Bailey Hongzhuang's reputation will be ruined. Ling Jiasin her. Meidi Hongzhuang and Lu Jinkan S and hers, ss and loses. Three-way and s ants and brats and lose. To bring Wei Mido, the secret, and to bring Wei to bring brought Lu, and to bring them. To bringing Zhuang, Ling, to bring them, and bringing them, to finding, and bringings to bring them to them time, to bring them to them. Jiang Ping's face was full of doubt and confusion. He was Xiao Zifen's friend and had long yearned for the channel opening pill. Previously, he wanted to rely on Xiao Zifen's relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang to buy the channel opening pill from Bailey Hongzhuang. Then, he heard the news that Bailey Hongzhuang was auctioning the channel opening pill. In these 7 days, he used all his methods to accumulate points and monster crystals. He originally thought that the price he offered was already high enough, but he didn't expect that he would still fail. Chapter 367. Hongzhuang. These are the 3 people on the note. Xia Jiqing said with a smile. Although she didn't know what Hongzhuang wanted to do, she could guarantee that she would complete the task Hongzhuang gave her. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes flashed with gratitude. She had asked Xia Jiqing to help her find people in order to not attract attention. The auction had just ended, and she believed that many people would be paying attention to her movements. In order not to alert the enemy, she could only ask Xia Jiqing to find people. Miss Bailey, why did you call us here? Although he was confused, Jiang Pingze was still very excited. No matter what, Bailey Hongzhuang was the publicly recognized goddess of the school. Being able to be in close contact with a goddess was enough to make many people envious. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, a gentle and charming smile on her lips. I have 3 channel opening pills here. Are you willing to buy them at the price you wrote on the note? Since Ling Jiasin wanted to use the channel opening pills to frame her, then she would also find people to verify the effects of the channel opening pills. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Jiang Pengze and the other 2 were surprised. This surprise came too suddenly, and they didn't know how to react for a while. Miss Bailey, is what you said true? Jiang Pengze's breathing was a bit hurried, his eyes filled with anticipation. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. Of course it's true. Of course we're willing. But Miss Bailey, why did you call the 3 of us here? Wouldn't it be better to auction it off directly? Jiang Pengze asked the doubts in his heart. The 2 people on the side also looked curiously at Bailey Hongzhuang. This situation seemed a bit strange. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I understand the doubts in your hearts. In fact, I had no other choice. Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu's eyes also flashed with curiosity. They still didn't understand what Hongzhuang wanted to do. I believe you all know that Lu Jingkuan and Ling Jiasin have enmity with me? Bailey Hongzhuang's face rippled with a gentle light. Her entire person was as gentle as the moonlight, giving people a comfortable and pleasing feeling. Everyone couldn't help but listen carefully to Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Whatever their goddess said must be correct. I know. To be honest, even that Wei Meidai had a conflict with me. Because of this, the 3 of them used fake names to successfully bid for the channel opening pills. Jiang and the others were surprised. They didn't think that Wei Meidai would have a conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang would have such a conflict. In that case, today's auction was full of conspiracy. I have to open channel's name is the channel opening sell to sell pills s. Therefore, I took out 3 channel opening pills to sell to the 3 of you. Once the 3 of you verify their effects, you can help me clear my name. Once these words came out, everyone's eyes widened. They had already guessed that Ling Jiasin and the others didn't have good intentions, but they didn't think they would come up with such a sinister idea. Ling Jiasin and the others are too sinister, Xia Jiqing said angrily. She was wondering why Hong Zhuang did this. It turned out it was to guard against this. Chapter 368. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a cold and mocking smile. They came to buy my channel opening pills, so naturally they don't have any good intentions. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Jiang Pengze and the other two finally understood. No wonder Bailey Hongzhuang would take out 3 more channel opening pills to auction. So it was because she didn't want to be wrongly accused. Although they despised the actions of Ling Jiasin and the others, they rejoiced in their hearts. If Ling Jiasin and the others hadn't interfered, they might not have been able to obtain the channel opening pills. Lady Bailey, don't worry. If Ling Jiasin and the others really did that, we will definitely help you prove it. Jiang Pengze's gaze was firm and sincere. Bailey Hongzhuang was not only the goddess in his heart, she was also Xiao Zifen's friend. Naturally, he would stand on Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Yes, Lady Bailey, you can rest assured. After Jiang Pengze said this, the other 2 people also expressed their own thoughts. Then I'll have to thank the 3 of you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I can guarantee the authenticity of this channel opening pill. If you don't believe me, you can ask an alchemist to appraise it. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's calm and sincere attitude, Jiang Pengze and the other 2 completely relaxed. They were very clear that Bailey Hongzhuang had no need to fake the channel opening pill. With Bailey Hongzhuang's ability, even if she didn't have the channel opening pill's recipe, she could still be praised as a genius. Jiang Pengze and the other 2 didn't hesitate to buy the channel opening pills. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Once they returned, they would also be able to boast about it. As Jiang Pengze and the others left, Xia Jiqing finally spoke. Hong Zhuang, do you think Ling Jiasin and the others will really do that? A playful light flashed in her ink-black phoenix eyes as Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. They will definitely do that. She was almost certain that Ling Jiasin and the others had this idea from the beginning. However, the pills she gave out now were fake, so Ling Jiasin and the others would definitely do it. Xia Jiqing didn't know what Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking. She only despised Ling Jiasin and the others to the extreme. It was truly rare for a person to be so despicable. Bai Junyu's eyes were also filled with disgust. As a cultivator, if he had the ability to attack directly, then he would use these shameful methods behind his back. This was truly despicable. If Ling Jiasin and the others really do this, there will be a good show to watch tomorrow. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with excitement. When she thought of that nasty woman's expression after knowing that Hong Zhuang was prepared, she was looking forward to it. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened and her eyes sparkled like stars. We'll meet soon. Ling Jiasin and the other 2 happily returned to their residence. They didn't expect that today's matter would go so smoothly. They were really happy. As soon as they opened the door, Ling Jiasin saw Dai Yunyang in the middle of cultivating. Her face was filled with joy and intimacy. Yunyang, we're back. Dai Yunyang exited his cultivation state and turned to look at Ling Jiasin and the others. Dai Yunyang was wearing a dark green robe, and his hair was tied up high. His appearance was quite handsome, but his eyes revealed a trace of gloominess, giving people a sinister feeling. Chapter 369. A faint smile appeared on Dai Yunyang's face, but there was not the slightest trace of a smile in the depths of his eyes. You're back. How did things go? There were some problems along the way, Ling Jiasin said. Just as Ling Jiasin's voice fell, Dai Yunyang's brows furrowed, his voice gloomy and unhappy. What problems? For this matter, he had already thought about it for a long time before coming up with a foolproof plan. How could there still be problems? There were 3 channel opening pills, but we only managed to bid for 2. The last pill was won by Wei Meidai. Ling Jiasin told the truth, intimately sitting beside Dai Yunyang. After not seeing Dai Yunyang for so long, she really missed him. Yesterday, when he finally came back, they were discussing how to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang, so they didn't have time to get along. Dai Yunyang's face instantly darkened. Why did it turn out like this? Earlier, when he received his father's letter, He was unable to restrain his anger. Daijimon was the sister he had always doted on. The two of them had a very good relationship, and both of them had successfully entered Azure Water School. Who knew how many people were envious of them? He had always felt that in the future, the two of them would definitely be able to create their own sky. However, that damn trash actually dared to kill his sister? Unforgivable. He definitely wouldn't let Jimon die in vain. He wanted Bailey Hongzhuang to accompany Jimon in her grave. He had said that he would bid for the 3 channel opening pills at all costs, but Ling Jiasin and the other two had failed. Ling Jiasin noticed the displeasure in Dai Yunyang's tone and didn't dare to keep him in suspense, quickly explaining. Although the 3rd channel opening pill isn't in our hands, you don't have to worry. We've already communicated with Wei Mei Dai. Ling Jiasin's face flashed with excitement. Yunyang, did you know? That Wei Mei Dai also hates Bailey Hongzhuang. After hearing our plan, she immediately agreed to cooperate with us, but she couldn't sell us the channel opening pills. Hearing this, Dai Yunyang's anger dissipated a little, but his eyes still had a trace of doubt. Are you sure? Ling Jiasin nodded. I'm sure. Lu Jingkuan and Peng Yunxiang nodded in agreement. Brother Yang, we even went to investigate. It turns out that a few days ago, Bailey Hongzhuang had a conflict with Wei Mei Dai at the Alchemist Guild. Not only did the two of them clash verbally, but Bailey Hongzhuang also injured Wei Mei Dai. Even Wei Mei Dai's master was angered by Bailey Hongzhuang and left. I'm afraid the enmity between them is no less than ours. After finding out about Wei Mei Dai's attitude, they went to find out more information just in case. Seeing that Lu Jingkuan was so certain, Dai Yunyang's expression became better. This was an excellent opportunity. If he missed it, it would not be easy to find trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang was alone, it would not be a problem for him to make a move. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's relationship with Dong Fangyu and Gong Shaoqing was extremely good. It would be very troublesome for him to deal with them. After all, Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu's strength as specially recruited students was not fake. Where are the channel opening pills? Dai Yunyang asked. Ling Jiasin and Lu Jingkuan immediately took out the channel opening pills. The 2 channel opening pills are here. Chapter 370. A cultivator only needed to take 1 channel opening pill. Now that there were 2 channel opening pills, perhaps the other one would be hers. Ling Jiasin looked at Dai Yunyang expectantly. As long as she had this channel opening pill, she believed that her strength would increase once again. You two can go back first. Dai Yunyang slowly said. Lu Jingkuan and Peng Yunyang naturally coveted the channel opening pill, but they were very clear that it was impossible for them to have a share. The two nodded and immediately left the room, but Ling Jiasin didn't. Ling Jiasin leaned on Dai Yunyang, her dainty face rippling with a pleasing smile. Yunyang, after not seeing you for so long, I really missed you. Dai Yunyang glanced at Ling Jiasin. The corner of his mouth hooked up into a smile. Without me by your side, you must be very lonely. Ling Jiasin nodded. I've been looking forward to your return every day. When you weren't here, that Bailey Hongzhuang always bullied me. Now that you're back, I can finally hold my head up high. Hearing this, Dai Yunyang's eyes flashed with a ruthless light. That damned Bailey Hongzhuang. Not only did she kill his sister, she even treated Ling Jiasin like this. It could be seen that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't put him in her eyes at all. Don't worry, after I return, that kind of thing won't happen again. Ling Jiasin's face was full of smiles, her head leaning on Dai Yunyang's shoulder, her voice gentle yet coquettish. Yunyang, this channel opening pill, can you give me one? She didn't have many cultivation resources to begin with, and adding on the bet she made with Bailey Hongzhuang, she had basically lost everything she had. It wasn't even enough to auction off the channel opening pill. Moreover, she was very clear that it was almost impossible to buy another channel opening pill from Bailey Hongzhuang in the future. Dai Yunyang's expression changed a bit, glancing at Ling Jiasin with a faint trace of ridicule and disgust. However, it disappeared in the blink of an eye, perfectly hidden by him. Jiasin, it's not that I don't want to give you the channel opening pill. It's just that I have other uses for this other channel opening pill. Dai Yunyang smiled hypocritically. Ling Jiasin was startled, her expression revealing some dissatisfaction. There's still one more channel opening pill. What do you want it for? This time, when I was out training, I met a benefactor. My current wealth is all thanks to him. Since I obtained this channel opening pill, I naturally have to give it to him. You know that it wasn't easy for me to reach this point. I have to seize every opportunity. Ling Jiasin understood after hearing this, but she was still a little unhappy. She just kept silent. Dai Yunyang hugged Ling Jiasin's slender waist. Originally, I wanted to bid for 3 channel opening pills so that I could give you the third one. However, something unexpected happened today. Jiasin, you won't blame me, right? Looking at Dai Yunyang's eyes, full of affection and helplessness, Ling Jiasin's heart softened, and she became even more determined. Yunyang, of course I won't blame you. I understand your difficulties. It's enough as long as you have me in your heart. Ling Jiasin's face was full of emotions as she threw herself into Dai Yunyang's embrace. Dai Yunyang's lips curved into a wicked smile. This kind of stupid woman was the easiest to deceive. Trash like Ling Jiasin was only his playmate when he was bored. How could he really have her in his heart? Chapter 371. After Ling Jiasin left, Dai Yunyang's gaze fell on the 2 brocade boxes in front of him. The channel opening pill was a pill that had been lost for a long time. He didn't expect that it would end up in his hands. Although he had spent a lot of money to bid for these 2 channel opening pills, as long as he sold one of them to that person, he would be able to earn back double the money. After carefully placing the 2 channel opening pills into his universe bag, Dai Yunyang left the dormitory. He wanted to give these pills to his benefactor as soon as possible. After Gu Songyun received the channel opening pill from Wei Meidai's hands, his weathered face flashed with excitement. Meidai, well done. Gu Songyun patted Wei Meidai's shoulder with a smile. As long as Master can research the channel opening pill's recipe, our statuses will be completely different. Every alchemist with a lost recipe might not be able to improve their skills, but their statuses were completely different. Wei Meidai smiled. Master, I believe that you will definitely succeed. Gu Songyun's face revealed a trace of pride. Master will start researching today. The recipe for a 2nd grade pill won't be too complicated. You should go back and rest first. Wei Meidai nodded, thinking about whether or not she should tell her master about her cooperation with Ling Jiasin and the others. Thinking about how her master needed to go into seclusion to research the channel opening pill's recipe, it naturally wasn't something that could be done in a day or 2. By the time her master came out, Bailey Hongzhuang would have already lost all standing and reputation, so there was no need to say anything more. Gu Songyun casually sent Wei Meidai away and went straight into the alchemy room. He couldn't wait to start researching. Wei Meidai also didn't stay for long and turned to leave. After Wei Meidai left, Gu Songyun looked at the channel opening pill and pondered for a long time. He felt that he should first take half of the channel opening pill and understand its effects before researching it. The channel opening pill was beneficial to cultivators. Even if half of the pill's effects would have a certain impact, it would still be helpful. Gu Songyun didn't hesitate to take half of the pill. At the same time, Dai Yunyang and his benefactor also took the channel opening pill. Under Dai Yunyang's bluffing, his benefactor spent 10 times the price to buy the channel opening pill. His harvest was really too great. Xiao He and Xiao Bai enjoyed the feast in front of them very much. Their hands and mouths were covered in oil, but the 2 of them looked intoxicated. Master, what kind of pills did you sell to Ling Jiasin and the others? Xiao Bai took a bite of the pig trotter and asked. Ever since it found out that the elixir sold by its master was fake, it was very curious about what kind of elixir it was. However, it didn't ask because Di Beichen was present. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a playful smile. Laxative. As soon as he said that, Xiao He and Xiao Bai widened their eyes. Laxatives can be refined into pills. Laxatives were only ordinary medicines, but what Bailey Hongzhuang sold was clearly pills. Bailey Hongzhuang blinked, the smile on her face becoming more and more proud. The laxative I sold also has some other side effects. What side effects? Xiao He and Xiao Bai asked in unison. Even Bai Shi opened his eyes wide, wanting to know what it was. It's actually nothing much. It's just to let them expel some of their strength at the same time. Chapter 372. When Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi saw the innocent Bailey Hongzhuang, there was only one thought in their minds. Two-faced. She was really too two-faced. He was afraid that only Bailey Hongzhuang could think of such a cruel trick. Bai Shi shivered. Offending anyone was fine, but never offending Master. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's eyes shone with pride. Master's things were really different from the rest. Whether it was the itching powder, Li Yue's freckles, or the laxative, there was probably no one else besides Master who would have them. Master, this laxative was also created by you. Xiao He asked. Master's items were really strange. He had all kinds of things. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded indifferently. Don't you think this method of dealing with hateful people is very novel? Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze, then nodded in unison. Novel? Yes, this was too novel. After Dai Yunyang and his benefactor Feng Yutong consumed the channel-opening pill, they happily sat down and began to circulate their cultivation method. The channel-opening pill's effect was to expand meridians. The process was a bit painful, but the two of them didn't mind. As long as they could increase their cultivation, this little bit of pain was nothing. Feng Yutong's eyes were filled with excitement. This Dai Yunyang was really good. He didn't expect him to be able to obtain the lost channel-opening pill. Although the price was high, he didn't lack money at all, as long as he could obtain the channel-opening pill. So what if he had to spend a bit more money? He had even thought that if this channel-opening pill was really useful, he would definitely think of a way to obtain more from Bailey Hongzhuang. This kind of lost medicinal pill had a price, but no market, just casually selling it, and money would roll in. However, after consuming the channel-opening pill, Feng Yutong didn't feel the slightest bit of energy from the pill, causing him to be puzzled. Dai Yunyang, why is there no reaction after I consumed the channel-opening pill? Feng Yutong frowned doubtfully. Are you sure this is really the channel-opening pill? Dai Yunyang's heart was also filled with doubts, because after he took the pill, there was also no reaction. According to his experience with pills, all pills would turn into rich energy after being swallowed. What's more, the channel-opening pill was a second-grade pill. However, in the face of Feng Yutong's doubts, he could only give an affirmative answer. This is the channel-opening pill. It can't be wrong. Dai Yunyang revealed a confident smile. This channel-opening pill is a lost pill, so it might be special. Let's wait a little longer. Seeing that Dai Yunyang was so certain, Feng Yutong also nodded. He had never taken the channel-opening pill before, so he didn't understand its effects. Perhaps the channel-opening pill was just like this. He believed that Dai Yunyang definitely did not have the guts to use fake medicinal pills to deceive him. However, after waiting for a while, there was still no response. Dai Yunyang, in my opinion, this channel-opening pill is most likely fake. Feng Yutong's face darkened. With his status and family background, no one dared to play tricks on him like this. Seeing Feng Yutong's gloomy expression, a trace of nervousness appeared on Dai Yunyang's face, and he immediately explained. Chapter 373. Seeing Dai Yunyang so nervous, Feng Yutong's expression eased up a bit, but the suspicion in his eyes still hadn't dissipated. Just based on the fact that the channel-opening pill was a lost pill, it was enough to fetch a sky-high price at an auction. He and Dai Yunyang had known each other for some time and had a certain understanding of Dai Yunyang's personality. This guy had always been greedy for money. If you dare to lie to me, then you'll have to be prepared to suffer my wrath. Feng Yutong narrowed his eyes, his low and cold voice filled with threat. Dai Yunyang's heart trembled. He had always felt that Feng Yutong was a second young master who relied on his family's wealth to spend as he pleased. Although he felt disdain towards Feng Yutong, he had always been careful to curry favor with him because he could obtain many benefits from Feng Yutong. At this moment, seeing Feng Yutong's serious appearance, his heart began to beat like a drum, and a trace of fear appeared in his heart. Young Master Feng, I swear, I definitely didn't lie to you. Dai Yunyang raised 3 fingers and swore, his expression sincere and serious. Feng Yutong coldly snorted. That's for the best. Dai Yunyang had just let out a sigh of relief when his expression suddenly turned ugly. His hands were placed on his stomach, and he felt a gust of wind and clouds churning in his stomach, making him feel very uncomfortable. Young Master Feng, my stomach hurts. I need to go. Dai Yunyang was a bit embarrassed, but before he could finish his words, he felt that he couldn't hold it in any longer and immediately rushed into the latrine. Feng Yutong coldly looked at the direction Dai Yunyang left and was about to ridicule him when he heard a sound coming from his stomach. Goo goo. Feng Yutong's expression also turned ugly. His stomach was in pain, and he couldn't hold it in any longer, rushing into the latrine like the wind. However, Dai Yunyang was already inside, and he could only continuously knock on the door. Dai Yunyang, hurry up and come out. I can't hold it in any longer. Young Master Feng, I'm sorry, I'm not done yet. Hurry up, hurry up. Feng Yutong continuously knocked on the door as if he couldn't hold it in any longer. While Dai Yunyang and Feng Yutong were fighting in the latrine, Gu Songyun's situation wasn't much better. After he took the medicinal pill, he felt that something was wrong. As an alchemist, he dealt with medicinal pills every day, so he naturally knew the characteristics of medicinal pills. Even if the channel opening pill was a lost pill, there shouldn't be no reaction at all after taking it. However, he was still unsure. He believed that the pills that Wei Meidai brought back must have been given to her by Bailey Hongzhuang, but he didn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so bold. Wasn't she afraid of being exposed if she gave out a fake pill in front of everyone? Then, in the latrine, he finally believed that Bailey Hongzhuang had deliberately tricked him. Damned Bailey Hongzhuang. Gu Songyun gnashed his teeth, his eyes filled with hatred. He had underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang. Gu Songyun's heart was filled with regret. It was all his fault for being too impatient. Otherwise, he would have only needed to examine the ingredients of the channel opening pill and immediately know that there was something wrong with it. In fact, although Bailey Hongzhuang had calculated that Dai Yunyang would definitely take it, she didn't think that Gu Songyun would also take it. The reason why she gave Wei Meidai a fake pill was to anger that old fogey Gu Songyun. Chapter 374. As night fell, the earth was shrouded in a layer of black, tranquil and serene. Dai Yunyang and Feng Yutong lay on the bed, exhausted. Under such a torrential downpour, they didn't even have the strength to speak. Their faces were deathly pale, without a trace of blood, and their hair was soaked in sweat. Dai Yunyang raised his head to look at the ceiling. He already understood that the reason they were like this was because of the so-called channel opening pill. The pill Bailey Hongzhuang gave them wasn't the channel opening pill, but a laxative. If not for that, how could he and Feng Yutong have ended up like this? Damned Bailey Hongzhuang. Dai Yunyang's face was gloomy, and he gnashed his teeth, wishing he could tear Bailey Hongzhuang to pieces. Dai Yunyang, what exactly is going on? Feng Yutong's heart was filled with anger, but the words that came out of his mouth lacked strength and power. However, after experiencing this, he knew that this matter probably had nothing to do with Dai Yunyang. Otherwise, Dai Yunyang wouldn't have ended up like this. Dai Yunyang's eyes were filled with hatred, and his voice was low and hoarse. It must be Bailey Hongzhuang who switched the channel opening pill with a fake pill to harm us. Then why would Bailey Hongzhuang be so daring? Feng Yutong was flabbergasted. This was an auction held in the academy. Bailey Hongzhuang actually took out a fake pill. Wasn't she afraid of her reputation being ruined? Hearing Feng Yutong's words, Dai Yunyang's face suddenly became extremely ugly. His original plan was to announce that the channel opening pill was a fake pill to ruin Bailey Hongzhuang's reputation, but he didn't think that this pill would really be fake. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang had already guessed this plan? Thinking of this possibility, Dai Yunyang couldn't help but shiver. Bailey Hongzhuang shouldn't be so smart, right? However, thinking about it from another perspective, Dai Yunyang still felt that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be so smart. They had only thought of this idea yesterday. So how could Bailey Hongzhuang have already prepared for it? It must have been an accident. The power of the laxative was too strong. Even Dai Yunyang and Feng Yutong couldn't bear it after such a thing. They immediately fell asleep. Fortunately, they were cultivators. If they were ordinary people, they would not be able to get out of bed for half a month. Gu Yin was much older, and most of his energy was spent on alchemy, so he didn't put much effort into his cultivation. Therefore, even though he had only consumed half of the pill, the extent of his collapse was even more exaggerated than Dai Yunyang and Feng Yutang. Lying on the bed, Gu Yun felt as if he had aged a few years in an instant. He no longer had the strength to move. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang woke up feeling refreshed. After freshening up, she was ready to watch today's show. Master, why is there no movement until now? Xiaohei moved closer to Bailey Hongzhuang, her round eyes filled with curiosity. She was really looking forward to today's show. After waiting for so long without any movement, she couldn't help but mutter to herself. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a playful smile. Let's wait. There shouldn't be any news until the afternoon. She was very clear on how strong the laxative she had made was. Because she wanted to use it on cultivators, she had specially added some strong ingredients. Chapter 375. In fact, everything was just as Bailey Hongzhuang predicted. Dai Yunyang and Feng Yutang did not wake up until noon. Goo. As soon as he woke up, Dai Yunyang felt a wave of hunger coming from his abdomen. Yesterday, he had expelled everything from his stomach. This damned Bailey Hongzhuang. Today, I will definitely teach her a lesson, Dai Yunyang said fiercely. He had lived for so many years, and no one had ever dared to play with him like this. Since Bailey Hongzhuang dared to do this, he would make Bailey Hongzhuang pay the price. Feng Yutang looked at Dai Yunyang with a pale face. Don't talk about revenge. What he wanted most now was to eat something. Only, he felt that something was wrong after waking up today. What was wrong? He could not figure out for a while. Dai Yunyang sat up and ran his cultivation method. This was something he had to do every day. After running his cultivation method for a week, his spirit would be much better. However, when he ran his cultivation method today, Dai Yunyang's face suddenly changed. An unbelievable thought appeared in his mind, and he felt a wave of panic in his heart. Because he clearly felt that his strength was much weaker than before, and the energy in his dantian had become thinner. Impossible. This is impossible. Dai Yunyang shook his head again and again. How could his strength suddenly drop? It must be because he had collapsed so badly yesterday that his mind was not clear anymore. Feng Yutang looked at Dai Yunyang's flustered appearance, and his eyes could not help but reveal a trace of doubt. From the time he met Dai Yunyang, he had never seen Dai Yunyang so flustered. Dai Yunyang, what's wrong? Feng Yutang frowned and asked. Dai Yunyang was completely immersed in his own thoughts and did not pay attention to Feng Yutang's words. Impossible. How could my strength suddenly drop? After cultivating in the Azure Water School for 3 years, his strength had reached the initial stage of the mysterious heaven realm. But now he clearly felt that his strength was at the middle stage of the mysterious Aeon realm. His strength had suddenly dropped by 2 whole levels. It was tantamount to announcing that his 2 years of hard work had all been wasted. This was absolutely impossible. Hearing Dai Yunyang's words, Feng Yutang's heart tightened. He thought of the strange feeling he had before. Could it be? Thinking of this, Feng Yutang hurriedly checked the situation of his dantian. With this check, Feng Yutang's face turned into the color of pig liver. His strength had also declined. Dai Yunyang, this is all your fault. Feng Yutang was furious. Yesterday's situation had already made him very angry, but now the decline of his strength was something he simply could not accept. Young Master Feng, what happened to you? Dai Yunyang was awakened by Feng Yutang's scolding and quickly asked nervously. My strength has dropped by 2 whole levels. Nothing can make up for it. Feng Yutang was enraged, and he was filled with regret. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have taken the channel opening pill. Even if he wanted to take it, he should have waited until Dai Yunyang took it and confirmed that there was no problem before taking it. Dai Yunyang quivered. He was originally unwilling to believe the truth, but after hearing that Feng Yutang's strength had also dropped by 2 levels, he could no longer deceive himself. Chapter 376. Aren't you just spouting nonsense? Feng Yutang slapped Dai Yunyang's head. He didn't even need to think to know that it was because of yesterday's pill. After being hit by Feng Yutong, Dai Yunyang's face was a bit ugly, but he couldn't care about anything else. He understood that he had definitely been tricked by Bailey Hongzhuang. Yesterday's pill was neither a channel-opening pill nor an ordinary laxative. Its true effect was to weaken one's strength. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that something like this would happen. This time he was done for. A crazy killing intent swept through Dai Yunyang's heart. He had worked so hard for so long and finally managed to break through. Now, with just one pill from Bailey Hongzhuang, all his hard work had gone down the drain. Originally, his strength was considered outstanding among the third-year students. Now that his strength had declined, his previous reputation would disappear without a trace. Not only that, with his strength suddenly declining, he was afraid that he would become the laughingstock of Azure Water School. From a cultivator who was looked up to such a situation, he simply couldn't accept it. All of this was because of Bailey Hongzhuang. Under his sleeves, his hands were clenched into fists. His fingernails were deeply embedded in his flesh, dripping with blood. His dark and gloomy eyes were full of killing intent and hatred. After this incident, Dai Yunyang had already regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as an absolutely irreconcilable enemy. No matter what, he must kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Feng Yutong looked at Dai Yunyang with eyes full of anger and disdain. The original Dai Yunyang still had some value in his eyes, but now that his strength had declined, he was nothing. Feeling Feng Yutong's dangerous gaze, Dai Yunyang's heart tightened, and he felt his scalp go numb. He already couldn't accept that his strength had declined, but the most difficult person to face was Feng Yutong. He was afraid that Feng Yutong couldn't wait to kill him right now. He was very clear that Feng Yutong only valued him because of his value. But now, he had already lost his value. Thinking of this, without waiting for Feng Yutong to speak, Dai Yunyang hurriedly spoke. "Young Master Feng, I definitely won't let Bailey Hongzhuang off." Feng Yutong coldly looked at Dai Yunyang. The original friendliness had already disappeared. "Whether you let Bailey Hongzhuang off or not, what does that have to do with me?" Hearing this, Dai Yunyang's forehead broke out in a cold sweat. He could feel the coldness in Feng Yutong's tone. "Ours to lose our strength, Bailey Hongzhuang. Since Bailey Hongzhuang caused us to become like this, she might have a way to restore our strength." This was also the biggest expectation in Dai Yunyang's heart. He believed that Bailey Hongzhuang must have a way. T-test, T-SSS tuses to him. T-to-U to T-test. Of course, TSS. T-twos. Then why are you still staying here? Feng Yutong coldly asked. Dai Yunyang was stunned. He hurriedly stood up and walked towards the door. If he continued to stay here, it would only make Feng Yutong unhappy. However, just as Dai Yunyang walked to the door, Feng Yutong suddenly called out to him. Chapter 377. Dai Yunyang suspiciously turned around. "Young Master Feng, is there something else? Leave the money I gave you yesterday." Feng Yutong no longer had any good temper towards Dai Yunyang, and his words became increasingly rude. He spent such a large amount of money to buy the pills, but not only did it not help his strength, it actually decreased. In this situation, Dai Yunyang still wanted to take the money away? What a joke. Dai Yunyang awkwardly smiled and silently walked to the side, putting down the 10 times the money he earned yesterday. This time, he really suffered a double loss. He originally wanted to make a fortune and improve his meridians at the same time, and even make Bailey Hongzhuang lose face. This was originally an excellent opportunity to kill 3 birds with 1 stone, but now he had fallen to such a state. After Gu Song-yin woke up, he also found that his strength had decreased and almost fainted from fright. He had been revered for most of his life, but he never expected that he would be tricked by a stinky girl like Bailey Hongzhuang. Although alchemists put most of their energy into alchemy, strength was equally important. The stronger one's mental force, and the stronger one's alchemy skills would be. Now that his strength had suddenly decreased, his perception was much weaker than before, and the difficulty of alchemy would increase. I didn't expect this stinky girl to be so vicious. Gu Yin was furious. Bailey Hongzhuang dared to treat him like this. He definitely wouldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang have it easy. Ling Jiesin and the others saw that Dai Yunyang hadn't returned since he left last night and couldn't help feeling anxious. They planned to take action today, but since Dai Yunyang hadn't returned, they naturally couldn't take the lead. Aya, why isn't Yunyang back yet? Ling Jiesin's face was filled with anxiety. She couldn't wait to prank Bailey Hongzhuang. Brother Yang definitely swallowed the channel opening pill yesterday and might be in closed-door cultivation. Lu Jingkuan pondered. How about we make a move first? Ling Jiesin thought for a moment. Let's wait. While the three were talking, Dai Yunyang's figure appeared in front of them. Yunyang, you're back. Ling Jiesin happily welcomed him. How was the effect of the channel opening pill? Listening to Ling Jiesin's words, Dai Yunyang was really angry. Looking at Lu Jingkuan and Peng Yunxiang, they still didn't want to tell the truth. The reason why Lu Jingkuan and Peng Yunxiang followed his lead was undoubtedly because of his strength. If the news of his strength weakening were to spread, the situation would change. Therefore, Dai Yunyang did not answer and directly changed the topic. Now, just release the news that this pill is fake. I'll go with you guys to cause trouble for Bailey Hongzhuang. He had to solve this problem as soon as possible and get the antidote to restore his vision from Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, he would be in endless trouble. When Ling Jiesin and the other two heard Dai Yunyang's words, they were all immersed in excitement. They weren't that curious about the effects of the channel opening pill. Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating in her room when suddenly there was a knock on the door. She opened the door and saw Xia Jiqing walking in with a face full of anger. Chapter 378. Xia Jiqing was simply angered to death. She hadn't heard any news this morning and thought that Hongzhuang was thinking too much. She had just let out a sigh of relief. But she didn't expect the news to come in the afternoon. Ling Jiesin and the other two distorted the facts, and in a short time, more than half of the students in the school already knew about this news. The news of the auction of the channel opening pill had caused a sensation in the entire school. After Ling Jiesin and the others bought the pill yesterday, many students wanted to know the effects of the channel opening pill. After all, the stall owner had left after getting the channel opening pill, so they didn't see the effects with their own eyes. Therefore, everyone was very concerned about the effects. Hearing Ling Jiesin and the others' malicious slander, many students who didn't know the truth believed it. In the blink of an eye, this sound had spread throughout the entire school. Looking at Xia Jiqing's flustered and exasperated appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but feel a little funny. Yesterday, she had already told Jiqing what might happen today, yet Jiqing was still so angry. If she hadn't told Jiqing about this situation yesterday, who knew what kind of expression Jiqing would have? After Xiao He and Xiao Bai heard this, their eyes instantly lit up. They weren't worried about this happening. They were just excited that the world wasn't in chaos. They had been waiting for the whole morning, and finally, this good show was about to begin. Bai Shi, who was nestled on the bed, also became spirited and curiously looked at Xia Jiqing. In fact, he also liked to watch the fun. Jiqing, don't be angry. Didn't we already expect this? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a gentle smile, her beautiful eyes filled with calmness. Obviously, this news didn't make her feel the slightest bit surprised. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent appearance, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but sigh in admiration. If this kind of thing were to happen to her, she would immediately rush out to find Ling Jiesin and the others to settle accounts. How could she be as calm as Hongzhuang? I really admire your good nature. I can't tolerate this kind of thing. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. I didn't say I would tolerate this kind of thing. She had always been someone who didn't offend her. She wouldn't offend them. If someone offended her, she would pay them back 100 times. Ling Jiesin and the others had already made her angry by finding trouble with them time and again. Yesterday, she had made Dai Yunyang lose a bit of his strength. Today, she wanted to see who would lose their reputation. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Xia Jiqing's face changed, and she immediately revealed a smile. It seemed that Hong Zhuang was planning to teach Ling Jiaxin and the others a lesson. "Do you need me to contact Jiang Pengzi now?" Xia Jiqing asked aloud. She believed that when the time came, everyone's words, "She's right, Jiaxin the end, yes," and the others, "S right." Although her heart was very anxious, seeing Bailey Hong Zhuang's confidence, Xia Jiqing also suppressed the anxiety in her heart. Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing were discussing the problems they encountered during cultivation. Everyone had some confusion in the process of cultivation. At this time, often after discussing with the cultivators, they could take fewer detours. At this moment, Lu Qinyue came in, her pretty face showing a bit of shock and emotion. Chapter 379. Hearing Lu Qinyue's words, Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu couldn't help but frown, a trace of concern appearing in their eyes. "What happened?" "I just came back from the Alchemist Guild and heard Ling Jiaxin and the others wantonly spread the news that Hong Zhuang's channel opening pill was ineffective and were cheating them of their money." Once these words were said, Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu's expressions became ugly. "They're just spouting nonsense and distorting the truth." Dongfang Yu stood up, his handsome face full of anger. They had also taken Bailey Hong Zhuang's channel opening pill, and the effects were excellent. Not only had their experience broadened, they had also become more tenacious. Their meridians could hold more spirit energy, and their spirit energy circulation speed greatly increased during battle. It was clear to see the benefits of the channel opening pill. Still pretending to be innocent after taking advantage of them, Gong Shaoqing's voice was cold, his eyes dark and icy like a black hole. These guys were really troublesome. We can't let them casually slander her like this. It's very detrimental to Bailey Hong Zhuang's reputation. We should hurry up and go take a look. Dongfang Yu's face was somewhat anxious. The later they went, the more the rumors would spread. The power of rumors was self-evident. Many people had been defeated by rumors. This kind of news would spread from one person to 10 people and from 10 to 100 people. In the blink of an eye, it would spread throughout the entire academy. Gong Shaoqing nodded slightly, and without hesitation, he immediately led the way downstairs with Dongfang Yu. Bailey Hong Zhuang saw that it was about time and walked out of her room. As soon as she walked out, she saw Dongfang Yu and the other two quickly walking upstairs. Without waiting for Bailey Hong Zhuang to speak, Dongfang Yu's nervous and concerned voice rang out. "Bailey Hong Zhuang, have you heard about Ling Jiaxin and the others spreading rumors?" Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded, her beautiful and gentle face rippling with a polite smile. "I've already heard. Those despicable people dared to slander you like this. They're really too hateful." When Ling Jiaxin and the others were mentioned, Dongfang Yu's face was filled with disgust. He didn't understand. Bailey Hong Zhuang and Ling Jiaxin had no enmity before, so why would Ling Jiaxin target Bailey Hong Zhuang? "Don't worry, we will definitely stand by your side." Seeing Dongfang Yu's concern, Bailey Hong Zhuang's expression changed a bit. At this moment, Bai Junyu also walked out when he heard the commotion. After hearing everyone's conversation, he was also somewhat speechless. He didn't expect Ling Jiaxin and the others to be so shameless. Bailey Hong Zhuang's plan was really not wrong. "Let's go take a look first," Gong Shaoqing said in a deep voice. "I think it's time to confront them face to face." Everyone nodded. They had to be there to see the situation clearly. Just as everyone was about to leave, the door next to Bailey Hong Zhuang's room opened. The corners of Di Beichen's mouth curled up in a charming and devilish smile. His posture was lazy and leisurely. "It seems that trouble has appeared." Hearing Di Beichen's words, everyone's expression changed a bit. This was something that none of them were willing to do. So why did it sound like a good show coming from Di Beichen's mouth? However, only Bailey Hong Zhuang understood Di Beichen's words. Only she and Di Beichen understood the whole process. Di Beichen naturally knew that she had a solution. Dongfang Yu's handsome eyebrows wrinkled, looking at Di Beichen with eyes full of doubt and dissatisfaction. Chapter 380. Dongfang Yu was unable to restrain his anger. Bailey Hong Zhuang was such a rare woman that anyone who became her husband should hold her in the palm of their hand. Although Di Beichen's conditions were very good, He was indifferent to Bailey Hongzhuang. He really felt sorry for Hongzhuang. As Dongfang Yu's voice fell, everyone present was dumbfounded. No one would have thought that Dongfang Yu, who usually had the best temper, would suddenly attack. Moreover, the target of his attack was Di Beichen. Di Beichen's eyes were as dark as the night. He faintly glanced at Dongfang Yu, his charming face showing a trace of coldness. When did I need an outsider to intervene in the matters between me and my wife? Di Beichen's words revealed a dangerous meaning. The matter of Dongfang Yu coveting Bailey Hongzhuang had already made him very unhappy. Now Dongfang Yu dared to criticize him? He didn't want to destroy their friendship because of Hongzhuang's face. But that didn't mean that he would remain indifferent when Dongfang Yu criticized him. When Di Beichen's words came out, Dongfang Yu couldn't help but feel angry. He didn't think that Di Beichen not only didn't reflect on his negligence, but also said such words. But Di Beichen's words poked at his weak spot. Yes, what position did he have to say such words? Xia Jiqing looked at the scene in front of her in a daze. She didn't think that Dongfang Yu would have a direct confrontation with Di Beichen. No one was giving way to the other. This was simply an eye-opener for her. Was this a showdown between a lover and a husband? Lu Qingyue's face slightly changed, her beautiful eyes showing some surprise. Earlier, she felt that Dongfang Yu was too enthusiastic, and his attitude towards other women was completely different. Previously, when they were training in the Luoyin mountain range, Dongfang Yu was furious because he thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had died. That was the first time she saw Dongfang Yu so angry. From then on, she realized that Dongfang Yu treated Bailey Hongzhuang differently. After returning to the academy, she found that Dongfang Yu was abnormally concerned about Hongzhuang's matters. After knowing Dongfang Yu for such a long time, she had a certain understanding of Dongfang Yu. Although Dongfang Yu treated everyone very well, the polite smile on his face was sometimes even harder to melt than ice. This was because no one had ever been special to him. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, Bailey Hongzhuang became special in Dongfang Yu's heart. Even if Dongfang Yu didn't say anything, as a woman, her perception was the most obvious. Eyes. Xiao He spoke, her eyes showing a trace of sympathy. Now that I think about it, I feel that Dongfang Yu is quite pitiful. Don't think so much. Di Beichen is also very good. Xiao Bai rolled her eyes at Xiao He. Don't you usually support Di Beichen? Xiao He sighed. She was really at a loss. Bai Shi raised his head to look at the two fellows. He really didn't understand why Xiao He was so conflicted when it was his master's choice. Gong Xiaoqing saw the situation and couldn't help but say, Di Beichen, Dongfang Yu doesn't have any bad intentions. Don't take it to heart. He's just worried about Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 381. Di Beichen's handsome eyebrows slanted, and his dark eyes revealed a bit of danger. His concern for Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need to be said. With the tacit understanding between him and Bailey Hongzhuang, even if she didn't say anything, he could still guess her plans. Now these two guys suddenly appeared and dared to criticize him like this. Today, he was no longer the waste prince who needed to endure. With his identity, who would dare to say half a word against him? The most important thing was that these two guys were too concerned about his wife. Di Beichen's words caused the atmosphere to instantly stiffen. Di Beichen's provocative words clearly revealed his anger. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't expect that she hadn't said anything yet, but they had already discovered this scene. This change of events was really beyond her expectations. The tacit understanding between me and my wife is not something you can understand. Di Beichen's voice was slightly cold. His left hand had already wrapped around Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, overbearing and arrogant. Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu looked at each other, their hearts somewhat shocked by Di Beichen's overbearing attitude. Seeing Di Beichen's action, Dongfang Yu couldn't help but feel a little angry. He understood the hostility that Di Beichen had towards him as a man. He really didn't have any position to criticize Di Beichen, but Di Beichen's actions really made people angry. Bailey Hongzhuang slightly raised her eyes and looked at Di Beichen. She wanted to say that Di Beichen's behavior was somewhat inappropriate, but when she saw Di Beichen's eyes, the words in her throat were stuck. That pair of deep eyes were full of true feelings, overbearing and a trace of irresistible. In the depths of those eyes, there was a trace of softness and fear. It was as if she denied it, he would be hurt. Seeing such a pair of eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but feel a little unbearable in her heart. Regardless of anything else, at least her current identity was Di Beichun's wife. In the face of Dongfang Yu's accusation, Di Beichun was just reacting. Thinking of this, she swallowed the words that she originally wanted to say. "Thank you for your concern," Bailey Hongzhuang said. "I have already thought of a way to deal with this matter." In fact, Di Beichun had already predicted what would happen today. She knew how much Di Beichun cared about her. If he didn't care about her, he wouldn't have come back at such a critical time, just to make sure she was safe. If he didn't care about her, there was no need to stay at school. From the beginning to the end, listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, everyone's expression changed again. They all thought that Di Beichun didn't know anything about today's matter. They didn't expect that Di Beichun had already predicted what would happen yesterday. So, didn't they wrongly accuse Di Beichun before? Xia Jiqing's mouth was wide open. Her eyes were full of understanding. In fact, even she felt that Di Beichun didn't care enough about Hongzhuang. Since he was her husband, he naturally had to care about Hongzhuang's every matter. She didn't expect that Di Beichun not only cared about her, but also had a strong insight. She was worried for nothing. Dongfang Yu was startled. His face became very ugly. Thinking of Di Beichun's tacit understanding with Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that Di Beichun was declaring his sovereignty. Chapter 382. Lu Qingyue's eyes flashed with a complicated light. She didn't expect that this matter would become the fuse that caused the conflict to erupt. Whether it was Di Beichun, Xia Jiqing, Bai Junyu, Dongfang Yu, or Gong Shaoqing, everyone was very concerned about Bailey Hongzhuang. Di Beichun and Dongfang Yu naturally didn't need to be mentioned. Even Gong Dage was very concerned about Bailey Hongzhuang. Perhaps in the eyes of others, Gong Shaoqing didn't show enough concern. But with Gong Shaoqing's cold temperament, being able to say a word proved that this matter was unusual in his heart. At this moment, Lu Qingyue's heart couldn't help but feel jealous. In the past, she was the goddess admired by everyone in the school. Whether it was her appearance, strength, or alchemy, she was praised by everyone. At that time, she was living a life of being surrounded by stars, high up in the clouds. Since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't worse than her in any way. In some places, she even surpassed her. Even at that time, there weren't so many people around her who cared about her. Bailey Hongzhuang was completely different. She seemed to be a shining body. Once she appeared, she attracted everyone's attention. The moment Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Di Beichun's eyes suddenly lit up. Those eyes that were as deep as the dark night and swept with a cold storm quietly filled with a smile. It was as if the sun had broken through the clouds, dazzling and dazzling. The left hand that was holding Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but tighten. Di Beichun's heart was full of joy. Bailey Hongzhuang affirmed him in front of everyone. The most important thing was that Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude showed that in her heart, he was more important than Dongfang Yu. Knowing this, how could Di Beichun be unhappy? Looking at Di Beichun's gloomy face, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but find it funny at the same time. She always felt that this guy in front of her was a black-bellied fox. She didn't expect this guy to have such a childish side. Seeing that the atmosphere was a bit awkward, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but speak again. "How about we go out and take a look first?" Xia Jiqing quickly cooperated. "Yes, let's go take a look. We don't know what Ling Jiasin and the others are doing right now." Gong Shaoqing nodded slightly and turned to walk out of the dormitory with Dongfang Yu and Lu Qingyue. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also walked out of the dormitory. This was what they were going to do today. Assembly Plaza. Ling Jiasin. Lu's TSSA's hearts was. The Heart sect. Every word was an accusation against Bailey Hongzhuang, not leaving the slightest bit of leeway. It was as if Bailey Hongzhuang was a complete scum. "We paid such a huge price, but who would have thought that the pills we obtained were actually fake channel opening pills?" Even if we had a small conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang before, hers was too much. Those cultivation resources were all my property. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang has cheated them all. Everyone, you must help me sue Bailey Hongzhuang and get back this loss. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the assembly plaza, they heard Ling Jiesen's words. Xia Jiqing couldn't help but sneer. This Ling Jiesen was really shameless. Ling Jiesen's did not seem out of place at all when she said these words. Chapter 383. I didn't expect the channel opening pill to be a fake. Could it be that this channel opening pill was a gimmick created by Bailey Hongzhuang from the start? Luckily, we weren't the ones who bought the channel opening pill yesterday. Otherwise, we would have suffered a huge loss. Ling Jiesen's words can't be completely believed. After all, we didn't see it with our own eyes. I don't think Bailey Hongzhuang would say such a thing. Ling Jiesen saw that there were people who didn't believe her words and couldn't help but make a solemn vow. Everything I said is true. You guys said that we had a conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang, so you can't believe everything you say. I believe that Wei Meidai will definitely come to seek justice later. When that time comes, you guys should believe me, right? Once these words were said, everyone looked at each other. If Wei Meidai also said this, then it was very likely to be the truth. Seeing the change in everyone's expression, Ling Jiesen and Lu Jingquan looked at each other, a pleased smile appearing in their eyes. It seemed that their goal was about to be achieved. Seeing Ling Jiesen's meaningful glance, Pang Yunxiang quickly left. Wei Meidai had long been prepared to cooperate with Ling Jiesen and the others, but Ling Jiesen said that she needed to appear later to achieve the best results. Thus, she had been waiting in the distance, waiting for Ling Jiesen and the others to ask her to appear. When Pang Yunxiang informed her that it was time to appear, Wei Meidai immediately walked into the academy with a face full of anger. After hearing Ling Jiesen and the others' complaints, she pretended to have the same feeling and loudly said, "You're right, the channel opening pill Bailey Hongzhuang auctioned had no effect at all." Ling Jiesen's face revealed a joyful expression. "Wei Meidai, it's great that you're here. Even after you took the channel opening pill, it didn't have any effect?" Wei Meidai nodded, her face full of indignation. "That's right. I spent so much to bid for this channel opening pill, but I didn't expect it to have no effect at all. Bailey Hongzhuang is too much." Everyone was in an uproar. Wei Meidai was an alchemist. Since even Wei Meidai had said so, then there was an 80 to 90% chance that it was true. I never thought that I would trust Bailey Hongzhuang so much. She's actually a liar. This move is too ruthless. Like I said, Bailey Hongzhuang is not an alchemist at all, so the medicinal pills in her hands can't be trusted at all. How can there be such a black sheep in the academy? No wonder she chose to auction the pill to us. If she had auctioned it to someone outside the school, I'm afraid she would be done for. Just as everyone was discussing, Bailey Hongzhuang and her entourage slowly appeared in front of everyone. Seeing the main character appear, everyone's eyes lit up. It seemed like there would be a good show to watch. When Ling Jiesen saw Bailey Hongzhuang, there was a trace of pride in her eyes, but her pretty face pretended to be wronged. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you've gone too far. Even if you and I have a grudge between us, you can't sell me fake medicinal pills, right?" Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth curved into a mocking smile as she crossed her arms and looked at Ling Jiesen with a smile that wasn't a smile. "Act. Continue acting." Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang ridicule her like this, Ling Jiesen's expression turned ugly. She didn't understand why Bailey Hongzhuang was always so calm and composed, as if victory was within her grasp. Chapter 384. This was the first time that Dai Yunyang had seen Bailey Hongzhuang. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's stunning appearance, there was a touch of covetous light in his eyes. Before this, he did not know that Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance was so outstanding. Even standing next to the number one beauty Lu Qinyue, she was not inferior. On the contrary, her eyes were full of confidence and could be called peerless. Even Lu Qinyue could not be compared to her. Ling Jiesen was a little stunned by Bailey Hongzhuang's calm and collected appearance. After she reacted, her face became ugly. "Bailey Hongzhuang, Tell me clearly, what am I acting? Ling Jiasin asked loudly. Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth outlined a smile, but her pair of narrow, beautiful eyes were full of contempt and disgust. What are you acting, don't you know? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Ling Jiasin's face changed a bit. I don't understand what you are talking about. Anyway, your medicinal pill has no effect. You must hand over the cultivation resources, and you will be punished. Ling Jiasin, don't frame me. Why do you say that Hong Zhuang's medicinal pill is fake? Xia Jiqing also had a violent temper. When she saw Ling Jiasin's arrogant appearance, she could not swallow her anger and immediately rushed up. She was not afraid to see who was the most powerful. Xia Jiqing, I'm talking about Bailey Hongzhuang's matter. Why are you blindly interfering? Ling Jiasin frowned. She knew that Xia Jiqing had a sharp tongue. If she wanted to argue with her, it would be difficult to win. I just can't stand your cheap appearance of inverting black and white. What's wrong? Xia Jiqing opened her mouth and did not give Ling Jiasin any face. Aren't you relying on your relationship with Dai Yunyang to be so arrogant in the school? Why don't you take a look at yourself? Xia Jiqing. Ling Jiasin was angered by Xia Jiqing. Don't go too far. There was a large group of students gathered around. Although many people knew about her relationship with Dai Yunyang, it was as if a layer of cloth had been lifted when Xia Jiqing said it directly. Dong Fengyu and Gong Shaoqing looked at each other. This Miss Xia's mouth was truly formidable. Bai Junyu's eyes flashed with a bright light. It was the first time he had seen Xia Jiqing so powerful. I'm too much? Xia Jiqing sneered. Can I be more excessive than you? Hong Zhuang sold the channel opening pill to you. Yet in order to take revenge, you actually dared to ruin Hong Zhuang's reputation. A woman's heart is truly the most poisonous. Ling Jiasin was furious. Her chest kept heaving up and down, but she didn't know how to refute Xia Jiqing. She could only look at Pang Yunxiang and Lu Jingquan. Lu Jingquan and Pang Yunxiang were also very helpless. To let the two of them argue with Xia Jiqing, wasn't it obvious that they were going to lose? Bailey Hongzhuang, we're talking about the channel opening pill. If you have the ability, then don't let Xia Jiqing interfere. Ling Jiasin thought for a long time and only said this sentence. If she continued to talk to Xia Jiqing, she was afraid she would be angered to death. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips hooked up. Her smile was enchanting and charming, but the words she said were incomparably domineering. Who do you think you are? Why do I have to listen to you? She understood that some people just didn't want face. In the past, she still gave Ling Jiasin face, but now she didn't intend to continue giving her face. Chapter 385. Ling Jiasin was completely shocked by Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude. Normally, even though she had many conflicts with Bailey Hongzhuang, she had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang act like this. This matter, how could it be completely out of her expectations? Logically speaking, in this kind of situation, shouldn't Bailey Hongzhuang be abnormally worried and cowering? Lu Jingquan and Pang Yunxiang were also a bit startled. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude made them feel helpless. Bailey Hongzhuang, the channel opening pills you auctioned were fake. Don't tell me you don't want to compensate us? Lu Jingquan coldly said. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips hooked into a sneer, her brows slightly raised. On what basis do you say that my pills are fake? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her voice so that everyone present could hear her words. As everyone knows, there is enmity between you and me. Do you believe that my pills are fake? You don't have any evidence to say that my pills are fake. If you say that my pills are fake, then I will also say that my pills are real. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were clear, leaving Ling Jiasin and the others with no ability to refute. Then what about Wei Meidai? Ling Jiasin asked. She also said that your pills had no effect. Ha! Bailey Hongzhuang lightly laughed. You are all jackals of the same tribe. Wei Meidai and I also have enmity between us. Now that you're working together, you naturally want to ruin my reputation. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the faces of the students present were all filled with astonishment. They knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Ling Jiasin had enmity, but they didn't know that she had a conflict with Wei Meidai. If that was the case, then Ling Jiaxin and the others were most likely targeting Bailey Hongzhuang and setting up a trap. How is it? I already said that the goddess in my heart wouldn't be that kind of person, right? This matter must have been framed by Ling Jiaxin and the others. A man laughed heartily. He couldn't refute the words of the crowd, but now he could finally hold his head high. That's right, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need to do this kind of thing. Even if cultivation resources are hard to come by, as a specially recruited student, how could she lack them? Ling Jiaxin and the others aren't good people. On one hand, they want to obtain the channel opening. On the other hand, they don't want to pay for cultivation resources, so they came up with such a despicable method. After the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, the original one-sided rumors changed in an instant. S's was. S's. Jiaxin's. S of course, the of course this. Although Bailey Hongzhuang hadn't been at Azure Water School for long, her reputation wasn't weak at all. Now, with just a few words, she was able to stabilize this troublesome rumor. Everyone began to doubt Ling Jiaxin and the others' words. What an amazing ability. Only Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi blushed with shame. In fact, what Ling Jiaxin and the others said was the truth. The channel opening pill that Master sold was really fake, but Master still said it with such a righteous appearance. Master's ability to lie without skipping a beat was truly amazing. Chapter 386. Wei Meidai stood up, her charming face filled with coldness. Your pill is fake. What right do you have to say that we're framing you? Bailey Hongzhuang, I don't lack money. I don't need to use such a method to frame you. Bailey Hongzhuang coldly looked at Wei Meidai. Ever since she met Wei Meidai, she knew that Wei Meidai wasn't someone easy to deal with. You guys wanted to bid for this pill, right? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the crowd and raised her voice. From the start of the auction, I didn't want to sell the channel opening pill to you guys. It was you guys who used fake names to successfully bid for it. If I were to say that you guys didn't collude with each other and acted in unison, you can ask the students here. Would anyone believe me? Dai Yinyang was also stupid at the moment. The medicinal pills that Bailey Hongzhuang auctioned were indeed fake. However, after Bailey Hongzhuang's words, it was clear that they were framing her. If he wasn't clear about the situation, he would have believed that Bailey Hongzhuang was telling the truth. As expected, the crowd of students stood on Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Ling Jiaxin and the other two's actions that day were already suspicious. Now that they thought about it, they were definitely colluding with each other. Wei Meidai was also anxious. She didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so powerful. They spent so much time spreading rumors, but Bailey Hongzhuang destroyed it all with just a few words. Bailey Hongzhuang, the channel opening pill is very beneficial to cultivators. Who doesn't want it? Wei Meidai said with a gloomy face. It's because of the enmity between us that I was worried you wouldn't sell the pill to me. So, I used a fake name. I believe that Ling Jiaxin and Lu Jingquan have the same thoughts as me. But what we said is also the truth. Your pill is fake. Seeing that Wei Meidai was opposing Bailey Hongzhuang, Ling Jiaxin couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. She didn't know how to deal with this situation. Since you said that, I'll ask you a few questions. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude was calm. Wei Meidai wanted to fight with her? What joke? She would let Wei Meidai have a taste of defeat. They wanted to ruin her reputation, so she was going to ruin theirs in return. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent appearance, Wei Meidai couldn't help but have a bad premonition. This Bailey Hongzhuang always gave her an unpredictable feeling. You're a pill master, right? Bailey Hongzhuang asked indifferently. That's right. If you say that my channel opening pill is ineffective, then that means you've already taken it. In addition to your identity as an alchemist, you're very sensitive to medicinal herbs. Let me ask you, what are the ingredients in my channel opening pill? Bailey Hongzhuang crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at Wei Meidai calmly, as if victory was already in her grasp. Dongfang Yu and the others, who were originally worried about Bailey Hongzhuang, felt that their worries were unnecessary after seeing her like this. With Bailey Hongzhuang's ability, she could easily resolve this matter herself. Ling Jiasin and the other two weren't Bailey Hongzhuang's match. Ling Jiasin, Lu Jingquan, and the others looked at Wei Meidai expectantly. They believed that Wei Meidai would definitely be able to answer this question. However, Wei Meidai was in a difficult position. In reality, she had never swallowed it. Chapter 387. Following Wei Meidai's silence, everyone present had already understood the truth. If what Wei Meidai said was true, then why was she speechless now? Ling Jiasin and the others were also dumbfounded. What was this situation? Why was Wei Meidai not speaking? Jiang Pengze and the others who had rushed over after hearing the news saw this scene. Their eyes were filled with shock. After hearing the news, they quickly rushed over, fearing that Bailey Hongzhuang would lack their support. Now it seemed that even if they didn't appear to prove it, everyone would still believe Bailey Hongzhuang. This skill, this ability, really made people exclaim in admiration. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with appreciation. His wife really couldn't be underestimated. The whole thing seemed to be initiated by Ling Jiasin and the others, but in fact, from beginning to end, the whole thing was under the control of Bailey Hongzhuang. Whether it was Ling Jiasin and the others' plan, reaction, or means of attack, it was all the same as what she had imagined. Just this point alone, Bailey Hongzhuang was very amazing. Just as Wei Meidai was at a loss, a hoarse and low voice full of anger suddenly sounded. Heavenly stargrass, rootless wood, willow, channel flower. These are the herbs used by alchemists to refine pills. Hearing this voice, everyone looked towards the source of the voice. They saw Gu Songyun's gloomy face walking to the morning assembly square. Even if it was well concealed, his face was still a bit pale. Seeing Gu Songyun's appearance, Wei Meidai's face was filled with joy. Although she didn't understand why her master suddenly appeared here, his appearance was tantamount to her savior. Heavens, it's actually Master Gu Songyun. He personally came to Azure Water School. I don't know what he came here for, but it looks like he came with ill intentions. Could it be that Master Gu came to help Wei Meidai identify Bailey Hongzhuang? In the face of this sudden change, everyone had different opinions. The matter that was originally about to end seemed to have a new change. Bailey Hongzhuang was no stranger to the herbs that Gu Songyun mentioned. These were the basic ingredients for laxatives, but there were some other things that Gu Songyun did not mention. Presumably, Gu Songyun hadn't figured it out himself. After all, the medicinal pills that she refined were not so easily imitated. However, after seeing Gu Songyun's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes were filled with doubt. She had already guessed that Gu Songyun would know that this pill was a laxative and not a channel-opening pill. The only reason she did this was to anger this old man. However, the paleness on Gu Songyun's face and the slightly exhausted appearance were clearly the result of taking a laxative. Could it be that Gu Songyun also took laxatives? This shouldn't be the case. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was puzzled, Xiao Hei's excited voice rang out. Master, you're right. Gu Songyun's strength has really dropped by 2 whole levels. It seems that this old man was quite angry. Xiao Bai smirked. His strength wasn't strong to begin with. At his age, losing 2 levels of cultivation is enough to make him suffer for a while. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a playful smile. Chapter 388. Xia Jiqing and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. They didn't know when Bailey Hongzhuang had formed a grudge with Wei Meidai. Looking at his appearance, Gu Songyun didn't come with good intentions. Gu Songyun's turbid eyes stared intently at Bailey Hongzhuang. If he could, he really wanted to strangle Bailey Hongzhuang to death. You shouldn't be unfamiliar with these herbs, right? Gu Songyun coldly asked. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent as she nodded slightly. As an alchemist, I naturally wouldn't be unfamiliar with these herbs. These are the ingredients of laxatives. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai glanced at each other. It seemed that this old man had some ability, actually being able to find out the ingredients in Master's pill. These herbs are the ingredients I found in your channel opening pill. You wouldn't be saying that the channel opening pill is actually a laxative, right? In front of the students, Gu Songyun had no choice but to maintain his demeanor as an alchemist, but from his words, one could still hear a bit of anger. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled in her heart. With Gu Songyun's age, it would be difficult for him to make up for his lost cultivation by 2 levels. No wonder he was so dissatisfied with her. Following Gu Songyun's words, everyone's expression changed. Gu Songyun was a reputable second-grade alchemist in Songlan City. With his status, there was no need for him to wrongly accuse Bailey Hongzhuang. Yet he stood up at this moment. Didn't this prove that Bailey Hongzhuang's pill was fake? Xia Jiqing and the others' expressions became ugly. They had thought that victory was within their grasp. But with Gu Songyun's appearance, the situation had changed. Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently looked at Gu Songyun. I don't understand how Grandmaster Gu linked the channel opening pill with a laxative, but for someone of your age to wrongly accuse a junior like me, isn't that too despicable? Despicable. When Bailey Hongzhuang said the word despicable, everyone present was stunned. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a sluggish expression. This was too awesome, right? Who was Master Gu? Bailey Hongzhuang actually said the word despicable so calmly. Xia Jiqing couldn't help but laugh and gave a thumbs up to Bailey Hongzhuang. Domineering. It's too domineering. Gu Songyun was also infuriated by Bailey Hongzhuang's words. You said I'm despicable? He, Gu Songyun, had lived for more than half his life, and no one had ever dared to speak to him like that. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders, too lazy to care about Gu Songyun's anger. The pills I sold yesterday were to Wei Mei Dai. May I ask how they ended up in Master Gu's hands? Hearing this, Gu Songyun's expression changed slightly. I'm just checking if there are any problems with this pill. Then, the result of your examination is that this channel opening pill is a laxative? Bailey Hongzhuang's posture was languid as she indifferently asked. Not bad. You didn't take the pill. How do you know it's a laxative? The same herbs can have different effects when combined with different herbs. Master Gu should not know this, right? Bailey Hongzhuang, don't try to quibble in vain. I've been immersed in alchemy for many years. These herbs are laxatives. Even if it really is a laxative, what does it have to do with me? What proof do you have that the laxative you're talking about is the channel opening pill I sold? Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth held a trace of sneer. Since she had done this, she had already made full preparations. Chapter 389. Gu Songyun, Wei Mei Dai, Ling Jiasin, and the others saw Bailey Hongzhuang's "you can't do anything to me" attitude, and their hearts were filled with anger. However, what Bailey Hongzhuang said was true, and they couldn't do anything about it. With my status, why would I need to wrongly accuse you? Gu Songyun's voice was heavy. Just his status and reputation were enough to prove that what he said was the truth. Once these words were spoken, the entire scene fell into silence. Gu Songyun was right. Just his status alone was enough to prove a lot. The situation isn't good. Gong Shaoqing's brows imperceptibly wrinkled. Dong Fangyu nodded slightly. They didn't think that Gu Songyun would suddenly appear. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's reputation in the school was quite high, she hadn't been in the school for long. Compared to Gu Songyun, who had been famous in Azure Water City for a long time, she was naturally lacking. We can only help prove it, but we don't know who the students will believe. Looking at Gu Songyun's group, Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a deep light, and the corners of his mouth curved into a cold and dangerous smile. Only a second-grade alchemist, yet he dared to pressure his wife. He was simply courting death. Just as Di Beichen was about to make a move, a kind and old voice suddenly entered everyone's ears. Today's morning assembly plaza is very lively. Everyone turned their heads and saw Huan Chuyu slowly walking over. Vice Principal. Everyone's face revealed a respectful expression. Huan Chuyu had already heard about what happened at the morning assembly plaza. He didn't think that Bailey Hongzhuang would cause such a commotion after auctioning off the channel opening pill. Old Gu, if you don't have enough evidence, you can't wrongly accuse my student. Huan Chiyou's first sentence already showed his attitude. Since he was standing in Azure Water School, his status was first Azure Water School's vice principal, then Azure Water City's Alchemist Guild's president. Hearing the meaning behind Huan Chiyou's words, Gu Songyun's face turned ugly. Elder Huan, I would never accuse Bailey Hongzhuang for no reason. Gu Songyun's expression was firm, In my opinion, this Bailey Hongzhuang's channel opening pill is a fake. If this kind of student continues to stay in the Azure Water School, it would be a disgrace to the school's reputation. Gu Songyun's faint words were filled with emotion. He wanted to take this opportunity to drive Bailey Hongzhuang out of the school. If he really succeeded, then the matter of Bailey Hongzhuang selling fake pills would be confirmed. At that time, he would not be able to turn over a new leaf for the rest of his life. A cold chill flashed across her beautiful eyes. Gu Songyun was actually so vicious. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was also filled with killing intent. Although he had a conflict with Gu Songyun at the Alchemist Guild, it was nothing more than a spat. She originally planned to make Gu Songyun suffer a small loss so that he would not appear in front of her in the future. From the looks of it now, it would be difficult to resolve the hatred in her heart if she didn't make this fellow disappear from this world. At this moment, Jiang Pengze and the others couldn't bear it anymore. They immediately stood up with faces full of indignation. Vice Principal, we can prove that Miss Bailey's pill is indeed effective. It's not the laxative that Master Gu said it was. Huan Chuyu looked at Jiang Pengze and the others in astonishment. What's going on here? As early as yesterday, when Wei Mei Dai and the others bought the channel opening pill, Miss Bailey already knew that things weren't going well. Ling Jiasin and the others already had enmity with Miss Bailey and would very likely think of ways to frame her. Chapter 390. Following Jiang Pengze's words, the scene once again went into an uproar. Everyone was completely shocked by this plot twist. They originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was at a disadvantage, but they didn't expect her to still have a backup plan. Vice Principal, there are many people here who can prove that Hongzhuang is innocent. It isn't like what Master Gu said. Di Beichen's voice was cold, not hiding the coldness in his eyes as he looked at Gu Songyun. That's right, we can all prove that Hongzhuang's channel opening pill is effective. Dongfang Yu followed up. Not only Dongfang Yu, Xia Jiqing, Gong Shaoqing, and Lu Qinyue all nodded. Hongzhuang gave each of us a channel opening pill. After taking it, our meridians have widened a lot. It can be seen that the effect of the channel opening pill is not the laxative that Master Gu said. Xia Jiqing solemnly swore. Although she didn't say the rest, everyone understood. Her words were clearly pointing out that everything Gu Songyun said was false. However, the focus of the students wasn't here, but Bailey Hongzhuang actually gave the channel opening pill to Xia Jiqing and the others. Such a precious medicinal pill was actually given away directly? What kind of courage was this? I didn't think that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so generous. Being her friend is really a blessing. That's right. Looking at the appearance of Xia Jiqing and the others, I'm afraid they have already taken the channel opening pill. Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu both stood out to prove Bailey Hongzhuang's innocence. I believe it's true. That's not necessarily true. Their relationship is very good. What's so strange about them protecting Bailey Hongzhuang? Everyone was discussing. Those who believed in Gu Songyun and those who believed in Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were evenly split. No one could convince the other. If Vice Principal doesn't believe me, you can check the condition of their meridians. Facts speak louder than words. Di Beichen's expression was lazy and indifferent, but his words were firm and unquestionable. His wife was not someone this kind of guy could casually accuse. Gong Shaoqing's eyes flashed. This Di Beichen had taken control of the situation with just 2 simple sentences. He was not simple at all. Hearing this, Huan Chiyou's gaze swept past Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang, and the others. His eyes that had experienced the vicissitudes of life and wisdom flashed with an incomprehensible light. Master Gu, Bailey Hongzhuang, what do you think of this idea? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded indifferently. The results of this test were certain, so she naturally did not need to worry. The reason why he had fought with Ling Jiasin and the others for so long was to blow this matter up. Only in this way would she be able to make Ling Jiasin and the others unable to face anyone. At the same time, she was also using this method to warn everyone that it was not easy to find trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang. Once they did it, they had to be prepared to pay the price. Inadvertently glancing at Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips curved into an enchanting smile. All of this could not be helped by Di Bei-chen. With Di Bei-chen opening his mouth, the effect was much better than her opening her mouth. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang agree so readily, Gu Songyun's eyes flashed with a trace of hesitation. He could not help but suspect that all of this might be a trap set up by Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 391. Just as Gu Songyun was thinking about what to do, Wei Meidai suddenly raised her chin and stood up confidently. So be it. Do you think we're afraid of you? Wei Meidai glared fiercely at Bailey Hongzhuang. Even her master stood up and said that Bailey Hongzhuang's pill was fake. Then it must be fake. If not, why would her master appear here? She wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson. Right now, Bailey Hongzhuang was just hoping for a fluke. Once they agreed, she would be the one panicking. Wei Meidai's sudden words almost made Gu Songyun spit out blood. Could it be that Wei Meidai couldn't see that this was a trap? Looking at Wei Meidai's proud appearance, he realized that his disciple didn't have a brain at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile gradually widened. Seeing Gu Songyun's complicated expression, she couldn't help but laugh. Don't be afraid of a godlike opponent, but a pig-like teammate. Gu Songyun probably even had the heart to strangle Wei Meidai. As a result, Gu Songyun's reputation would be ruined, just like Wei Meidai's. This was something she didn't expect, so it was a pleasant surprise. Ling Jiaxin and the others standing behind Gu Songyun looked at each other. Originally, they only asked Wei Meidai for help, but they didn't expect that she would be the one to solve it. With Master Gu's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang will definitely lose this time. Lu Jingquan's eyes were filled with joy. Although he didn't kill Bailey Hongzhuang, he was still able to ruin her reputation. He thought that Dai Jimon would also be happy. Yes, I didn't expect Wei Meidai to be so awesome. Even the heavens are helping us. Ling Jiaxin was also very happy. Their goal was achieved. Moreover, with Bailey Hongzhuang's net worth, they could ask for double the compensation. Only Dai Yinyang, who was below the high platform, frowned. Bailey Hongzhuang was too calm. This was clearly the indifference of having a card up her sleeve. Perhaps things were not that simple. Since all of you have agreed, how about I do a check? Huan Chuyu slowly said. Although Gu Songyun was very nervous, he could only take a gamble at this point. This was because Wei Meidai's words had already sealed off all his escape routes. However, just as Huan Chuyu was about to examine it, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice suddenly rang out. If the test proves that I'm innocent, then Master Gu and the others have wronged me. Do they want to let it go so easily? Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes, and a fierce and domineering light flashed in her eyes. She had never been a person who would allow others to bully her. Gu Songyun and the others had made it clear that they were deliberately causing trouble for her. So how could she let them off so easily? Otherwise, wouldn't anyone be able to cause trouble for her in the future? But if that's not the case, what will you do? Wei Meidai asked back. If my channel opening pill really has no effect, then I will double the compensation for all of your losses. At the same time, I will leave Azure Water School. Her delicate and beautiful face flashed with a resolute light. Sunlight shone on Bailey Hongzhuang's body, causing her to ripple with magnificence and shock people's minds. Her words were incomparably domineering, not allowing for refusal, and resolute. Chapter 392. Shocked and astonished gazes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Everyone found it hard to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would say such a thing. Leave Azure Water School. What a big punishment this was. How many cultivators had racked their brains to squeeze into Azure Water School, but had no way to do so. Bailey Hongzhuang actually used this as a condition. What kind of domineering, what kind of self-confidence was this? At the same time, this also proved Bailey Hongzhuang's persistence. If Gu Songyun and the others hadn't really wronged her, how could she say such a thing? With one sentence, everyone fell into a sluggish state. Even Wei Meidai and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. They didn't want to take this opportunity to remove Bailey Hongzhuang from Azure Water School, but it was too difficult to implement. None of them thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually propose to leave Azure Water School. But at this moment, when Bailey Hongzhuang personally proposed it, they weren't happy. On the contrary, their hearts were shrouded in a layer of worry. No one would believe that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care about Azure Water School. Then, there was only one reason for her to do this. She had 100% confidence in this experiment. Thinking of this, Wei Meidai's face instantly became pale. If the experiment proved that Bailey Hongzhuang's pill was really effective, then what would they do? Wei Meidai couldn't help but look at Gu Songyun, only to see Gu Songyun looking at her with an ashen face. If Wei Meidai hadn't been hot-headed and directly agreed to Bailey Hongzhuang, how could they be in such a situation now? Ling Jiasin and the others looked at each other, a bad premonition spreading in their hearts. Miss Ling, the situation doesn't look good. Pang Yinxiang lowered his voice. Ling Jiasin looked at the crowd and found that Dai Yunyang had unknowingly disappeared. Previously, Dai Yunyang had said that as long as they succeeded, Dai Yunyang would personally appear to ask Bailey Hongzhuang for compensation. Now that Dai Yunyang had left, their chances of success had become extremely small. Let's wait a little longer. We can't be sure of the result yet. Maybe Bailey Hongzhuang just wants to scare us with this method so that we won't experiment anymore. Ling Jiasin slowly said. This was their only hope now. Lu Jingquan nodded slightly. This was also a possibility, although the possibility was not high. On the other hand, each of you will have to apologize to me and compensate me for the damage to my reputation. Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent and cold gaze fell on Gu Songyun and the others. Her attitude was firm and persistent. Dongfang Yu and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. What Bailey Hongzhuang did was really unexpected, but it made their blood boil. Even if Gu Songyun was standing in front of her, she did not have the slightest scruple. Di Beichen's mouth curved into a charming and perfect smile. His wife was really full of courage. He liked it. Huan Chuyo's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, but after thinking about it, he also understood why Bailey Hongzhuang did this. In fact, if Bailey Hongzhuang was really wronged, then her request was reasonable. Compensation for the damage to your reputation? Gu Songyun raised his voice and asked. Chapter 393. Master's really amazing. First, he cheated Gu Songyun and the others, and now he's cheated a second time. Strings of gold coins appeared in Xiao Hei's eyes, her face filled with undisguised excitement. Master only used a scheme to earn a large sum of money. How many plates of pig trotters can he repay? Xiao Bai's eyes shone with countless pig trotters. Following Master, there's meat to eat. This sentence was not wrong at all. Gu Songyun and the others deserve to be unlucky. They dared to offend Master. They're really looking for trouble. Haha. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai looked at each other, very pleased with themselves. Baisher's eyes were also spinning. It seemed that he didn't need to worry about not having enough monster crystals for a period of time. Recently, his happiness came wave after wave. He was so happy that he didn't dare to believe it. In my opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang's suggestion is very fair. What does old Gu think? Huan Chuyu asked. Since it was a bet, it belonged to both sides. Bailey Hongzhuang's request was not excessive. Gu Songyun's face flashed with a trace of hesitation. Money was not the most important thing to him now. What he couldn't accept was apologizing to Bailey Hongzhuang. A feeling of regret spread in Gu Songyun's heart. If possible, he really wished that he didn't come today. He originally wanted to make Bailey Hongzhuang lose face, but he didn't expect that the person who fell into this dilemma would be himself. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's confident appearance, he couldn't help but admit that this time, he was afraid that he had lost. Even if his heart was 10,000 times unwilling, Gu Songyun could only nod. Okay. Seeing that Gu Songyun agreed, Huan Chuyu didn't delay and immediately began to check the condition of Gong Xiaoqing and the others. With this check, Gu Songyun already knew their condition like the back of his hand. He was very familiar with Gong Xiaoqing and the others. He also knew how wide their meridians were. And now, he found that Gong Xiaoqing and the others' meridians were much wider than before. Not only that, their meridians were much tougher. To cultivators, these changes would be of great help. Just this alone was enough to prove that Bailey Hongzhuang's channel opening pill had miraculous effects. After checking on Gong Shaoqing and the others, Huan Chuyu also checked on Jiang Pingze and the other two. The facts proved that it was just as they said. Jiang Pingze's trio had only taken the channel opening pills yesterday, so there was still some energy in their bodies that had yet to dissipate. It had nothing to do with the laxatives Gu Songyun mentioned. Huan Chuyu slowly raised his head and looked at Gu Songyun with a complicated gaze. Old Gu, according to my examination, their meridians have indeed widened. As soon as he said this, the crowd below the high platform went into an uproar. No one doubted Huan Chuyu's words. Who would have thought that in the end, Gu Songyun would be the one to wrongly accuse Bailey Hongzhuang? Gu Songyun's body trembled and his face turned pale in an instant. It was as if he had suffered a huge blow, causing his body to become somewhat unstable. The faces of Wei Meidai and the others were also extremely ugly. They originally thought that their plan was flawless and that they would definitely be able to topple Bailey Hongzhuang. They didn't think that in the end, the ones whose reputation would be ruined would be themselves. I really didn't think that Wei Meidai and the others would be so despicable. After buying the real channel opening pill, they still wrongly accuse Bailey Hongzhuang. That's right. They even wanted to use this reason to get Bailey Hongzhuang to refund the money. They really are shameless. Chapter 394. Now we've finally proven Hong Zhuang's innocence. Xia Jiqing looked at Gu Songyun and the others with pride. The vice principal had finally proven Hong Zhuang's innocence. Gu Songyun wanted to spit out a mouthful of blood. If he had really wronged Bailey Hongzhuang, then so be it, but that pill was clearly fake. It must be that the channel opening pill Bailey Hongzhuang gave them was real, but the pill she sold us was fake. Gu Songyun finally understood the crux of the matter. It was impossible for Wei Meidai to secretly switch the pill. If that was the case, then there was only one possibility left. Hearing Gu Songyun's words, everyone's eyes were filled with contempt. Now that the truth had been completely exposed, Gu Songyun still wanted to wrongly accuse Bailey Hongzhuang. This was too shameless. Grandmaster Gu, you still want to wrongly accuse me at this time? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with disdain and ridicule. Since the truth is already set, I believe you all know what to do, right? Gu Songyun glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had lived for so many years, but this time he was actually tricked by a junior. Not only did she ruin his reputation, she even had to compensate him. Where would he put his face in the future? Gu Songyun's heart was filled with anger. He simply couldn't believe that he had fallen into such a situation. Bailey Hongzhuang, can you accept my apology? Gu Songyun's voice was filled with rage and threat. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes were filled with a trace of crazy, killing intent. This damn brat. After today's matter, he definitely wouldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang off. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered, her eyes filled with coldness. Why wouldn't I be able to accept Grandmaster Gu's apology? Even if you kneel down and kowtow to me, I would still be able to accept it. Once these words came out, Gu Songyun's face instantly turned ashen and gloomy. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't go too far. Gu Songyun's face was flushed red, and his expression was terrifying. Who's the one who went overboard? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold and severe. You know very well what you're trying to do by getting Wei Meidai to buy my pills. As a senior, you've always targeted me, pushed me aside, and wronged me. Could it be that you expect me to respect you? Why don't you take a look at yourself? Are you even worthy? Gu Songyun was furious, his right hand pointing at Bailey Hongzhuang, his mouth open but unable to say a word. He looked like he was so angry that he could faint at any moment. If you can't afford to gamble, then don't gamble, lest you become a laughingstock. Bailey Hongzhuang coldly stared at Gu Songyun. She had seen many shameless people, but someone like Gu Songyun, who was a whore and still wanted to maintain his chastity, was the most disgusting. Since she had already decided to shed all pretense of cordiality, she naturally wouldn't be polite with her words. Everyone stared dumbfoundedly at the scene on the stage. Bailey Hongzhuang was really too domineering. That was Grandmaster Gu, but now he was being scolded like a grandson by Bailey Hongzhuang. However, after thinking about it carefully, everyone felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's scolding was not without reason. In fact, Gu Songyun's actions were disgusting. Wei Meidai was also scared silly at this moment. She didn't understand where Bailey Hongzhuang's courage came from. An indescribable feeling of regret spread in her heart. If she could, she really wanted to find a hole to hide in. Chapter 395. Clap, clap. Just as the audience fell into silence, Di Beichen suddenly clapped his hands. Well said. Di Beichen's dark and bright eyes flashed with appreciation, and the corners of his mouth curved into a wild and devilish smile. His wife's words were so wonderful that he naturally had to applaud. Everyone looked at Di Beichen in surprise. This Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were indeed husband and wife. Their courage was not something an ordinary person could compare to. After Di Beichen applauded, Xia Zhiqing and Bai Junyu also applauded. These words were really pleasing to the ears. Dong Fangyu and Gong Shaoqing also applauded. Lu Qinhua looked at Huan Chuyu and Gu Songyun with some hesitation. She often stayed in the Alchemist Guild and was familiar with Gu Songyun. If she applauded now, it would be a bit inappropriate. Below the high platform, it was unknown who took the lead to applaud. Then, thunderous applause resounded around the morning assembly square. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were really too satisfying. Usually, alchemists always had a high and mighty attitude, and they did not dare to be disrespectful. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang dared to directly provoke Gu Songyun. Just listening to it made their blood boil. Gu Songyun's face had already turned into the color of a pig's liver. He hoped that everything in front of him was just a dream. Only, reality was cruel. He helplessly looked to Huan Chuyu, hoping that Huan Chuyu, who had been his old friend for so many years, could help him say a few words. Otherwise, after today, he would completely become the laughingstock of Songlan City. Huan Chuyu frowned. He did not expect the situation to suddenly become like this. Towards this old friend of Gu Songyun, he was also somewhat helpless. In the past, although Gu Songyun was very narrow-minded, he would not intervene in the matters of the younger generation. He did not think that this time, he would also be involved in this matter. Especially that last sentence, it made everyone despise him. Bailey Hongzhuang, Master Gu is an elder after all. I believe he understands the situation. Why don't you compensate him? Huan Chuyu pondered for a long time before he slowly spoke. He was also in a difficult position. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Huan Chuyu. She could understand why Huan Chuyu did this. On one hand, it was a student of the academy, and on the other hand, it was a friend that he had known for many years. After much consideration, this was the only way to compromise. In Bailey Hongzhuang's heart, she was grateful to Huan Chuyu for protecting her when he first appeared. Since the vice principal has spoken, then we'll listen to you. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. However, he has to pay double the compensation. Seeing how unwilling Bailey Hongzhuang was, Huan Chuyu could only smile helplessly. He turned to look at Gu Songyun. This was the best he could do. I'll send someone to deliver it tomorrow. Gu Songyun angrily glared at Bailey Hongzhuang and quickly left the morning assembly plaza. He was not willing to stand here and embarrass himself. Seeing Gu Songyun leave, Wei Meidai immediately wanted to leave as well. Wait. Bailey Hongzhuang's cold and indifferent voice suddenly rang out. Miss Wei, you seem to have forgotten something? Wei Meidai's body stiffened, and she awkwardly turned her head. What is it? You still owe me an apology. Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. Wanted to leave like this, isn't it too easy?